leave the stuff. Wow. Leave the stuff for one day, and this is the stuff that happens. Everything is all over. Oh, I still didn't bring the meds in. Damn. That's all right. I'll get into it, man. I will really get into it. Wow, where's the magnet? That shit's a magnet. Damn, I didn't know that. This shit is a magnet. I blow big stacks. All right, let's get into it. This is the Chocolate Mountain Show. I am your host. 8 Wind is timeless. I am the holder of the continuous ball game of the Hero Twins. It all started with a gentle sadness. I am the Galactic Daddy-O sitting on your galactic patio, where I elevate up into the world, where I do get my funk and telica. How is your funk this evening, everyone? Oh, let me tell you, yesterday was quite a challenge. Someone had asked me last week, they were like, do you ever sleep? And a lot of times I really don't. Hey, Gray, that's right. That's absolutely right. That's right. What's better time for the commercial? I'm still on this Wonderland, very fruity IPA, nectar ale they call it, and it really takes that bitterness out of the IPA. So this is the commercial. That's right. Pop them if you got them, smoke them if you want them. There it is. And so yesterday I drank 3 beers and called myself about to lay down and watch Saturday Night Live. And the next thing I know, I am asleep until 4 or 5 in the morning. No, the TV's on this whole time, just playing. I missed Saturday Night Live and all that. But I had to catch it on something else. Matter of fact, I recorded it. So I caught it on record. But I had planned on watching it and just fell asleep. Again, I spread myself too thin. I don't get a whole lot of sleep. I average about 3-4 hours of sleep a night. If I get off here, whatever time I get off here, I don't go right to sleep. I'll stay up almost an hour after, just kind of unwinding from putting so much into this. So as much as I wanted to last night, my body just said I needed to rest. And then people are just bothering me. Like I got a call at 10 something and I ignored all my calls, but I'm like, somebody I really don't even know that well. Like, why are you calling me at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday? And I'm just listening to the stupid damn voicemail. I'm like, yeah, this is an idiot that left me a voicemail. My friends know, don't call me. I tell all my friends, don't call me before 1 o'clock. Unless you, one of my children, one of the baby mamas, don't call me, or my mother, do not call me before 1 o'clock. So most of my friends know this. Hey, T-Bull, thank you. Dreadhead Locks, thank you for joining me. So most of my friends know this. So I knew whoever called me wasn't somebody I really knew. So I kind of ignored it. Then I later had to chastise the person. Again, don't call me because I don't get a lot of sleep. And so it took me. Now I did drink 3 beers of this. This is 7.5. But normally, like tonight, I'm drinking 3 beers. This will be my 4th. About 2 hours ago, I drank 1. So I had to get to rest. As much as I like coming on 6 days a week, I wasn't physically able to. But I feel good tonight. Now, I just downloaded a video. I am a big race fan. Again, I've told many stories about me living in North Carolina in the 80s and getting into betting on these race cars. And so I bet on a couple cars tonight. And early in the race, they crashed like right at lap 15. Just sitting down watching the race, lap 15, they crashed. After they get done crashing, it's a rainstorm. So they said it was delayed till hours ago. I'm keep checking. I'm thinking it's delayed till tomorrow because that's what they've done that in the past. They'll race on Monday. No, I guess they raced at They must have started racing at 7, 8 o'clock. So I started watching the hoop games. I watched the Timberwolves win after losing 5 straight. They fixed it so the Timberwolves would win. Dallas, Portland lost. I think Dallas won. No, I think Portland won. Portland won. They got that dunk at the end. So Portland won, and I just watched the Lakers lose. And then I see on SportsCenter that so-and-so won the race. Hey, strong discernment. Thank you. Did you see Anthony Davis fake his injury? Yeah, I saw that too. Saw him fake his injury. Oh, okay. Thank you. And so I watched how the race ended. And this is one thing they always do. If the person they didn't pick race, they crash them. So the thing of the race was bump. What was it called? It's called bump drafting. So you had 3 cars in a place. The third place car is a teammate with the second place car. And I think the second place car at the time was number 2. But anyway, he's bump drafting his teammate. The dude in first place is just dusting him. This is a half a lap away. Do you understand? A half a lap in a car. Do you know how quick you do 800 and some meters? You know a half mile, how quick you do it? He bumped into Joey Logano. And let me say this. Joey Logano won a couple of years ago the same way. Somebody else crashed, and he was able to come through. So a dark horse won. A person that had raced 300 and some races before he ever won. And he wins Daytona. Now, Michael Waltrip, when Dale Earnhardt did his sacrifice or fake death, whatever it was, he had raced 400, and he had went like 6, 7, 8. I think he went 10 years. It took him 10 years to win the Daytona 500. Earnhardt in 20 attempts only won it once or twice. But, hey, Marcus. And so this is what they did. They crashed Joey Logano, who was clearly going to win the race. But the problem was either Logano went with it or he didn't have enough horses to get further. The fastest car got wrecked in the beginning of the race. The best car all weekend, and they have two preliminary races that are shorter distances to kind of tune up the car. That car got crashed in the 15th, so they got rid of that car. Wallace's car that now he's wearing a Jordan, he didn't pass the inspection. So he had to finish at the end, which I noticed stopped him from being crashed. He wasn't crashed. I'm not sure how he ended. I should look it up how he ended because that's kind of how they get paid. I did a bet that he would finish 23rd. He always finishes 20-something. But I thought on his first day being under Michael Jordan, watch him get 23, place 23. Let's see if he even finished because I didn't really check. What place did Bubba Wallace finish in today's Daytona 500? Oh, check this shit out. No, this was his first time. Oh, here we go. Maybe this will tell what place he got. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't have. Let's see. This is all old stuff. I don't see it. I don't see his place. If anybody else got it on there, I don't see where they're giving that up. Skydiver. No, I don't see places. Oh, well, does anybody else see? He finished 11th. Okay, thank you. He finished 11th. I didn't win that bet then. Tariq, thank you. Tarek, sorry. Tubai. Is that right? Okay. Oh, appliance repair. What's good? Hey, thank you for joining me. He finished 11th. Okay, thank you. I lost that bet. But I was that's actually good for him. Remember, a few years ago, he finished second. He ended up second place a few years ago. One of his first times in it, he finished second. But the rest of the year, he was like 20-something. But well, I'm trying to think how many cars was left. Because it was the first crash killed about 8 to 10 cars. The first crash they did in the beginning of the race. So yeah, and then Michigan won. I watched Michigan beat Wisconsin. And let me tell you, when Wisconsin used to have fans, you're talking about the most cheatingest place that they let them cheat on TV. It was a terrible place. Going back to the Fab Five days, it was one of the hardest places. Wisconsin and Indiana in the Big Ten was the two hardest places to win in because they cheated so bad. And they cheated so bad on camera. Like, so this was the first time Michigan has swept them since 97-98 season, which is almost 20-some years ago. So, hey, J.R. Smooth, thank you for joining me. That NASCAR race was interesting. Yeah, I mean, but that's how they always do it. If the person they don't want to win, that's their thing, is crashing. That is, if you watch this stuff, that's what they do, crashing. And as I said before, this is their Super Bowl. The way NASCAR does it is their biggest race really of the season is their first race. Their Super Bowl is the beginning of their sport. And I understand marketing why they did it. It is the most known. That's the most known track because they raced there 2 or 3 other times. It's not the only time they race there. They race at the Indy place as well in the Brickyard. But this is the most popular. So I see why they, as marketing wise, why not get all you can? This is our Super Bowl because even their championships doesn't get as much attention than this one. As far as the casual race car person, they'll watch this and they might not give a damn about the rest of the season, but they won't miss this race. So they had the crowd hold up threes before. Yes, exactly. And when Dale Earnhardt, when Michael Michael Woodrum, when he won after almost 10 years, he was Dale Earnhardt's race mate. He was racing under him. And the move he made, the crash that killed him, again, he didn't wear that brace. All of them are supposed to wear that neck brace. He opted not to wear it because he was an older racer. And it's all kind of stories. But this is the race. Michael Waltrip, excuse me. This is the race that I watched that race. He supposedly died. He makes this move. Waltrip goes on and wins his first and only time he won after like 7 to 10 years of racing. But Dale Earnhardt had only won it once or twice in 20 tries. So that's 20 fails. Hey, Jay, the guy who messed up Logano and Kowalski won. Yeah. Oh. No, I thought he was 34. I thought it was 34 won, and it was 2, I thought, did the crash. Him and Kowalski are teammates. Okay, I get you. Yep. So Logano was easily going to win. He didn't have enough power to get away. That was probably his main thing. Again, this is like last year. They almost killed a driver, and they showed this thing, and this dude crashed again today. The dude was in a coma last year. Again, maybe they hyping it up, but they said the dude was they put him in a coma. And the only time they put you in a coma when you have swelling so bad, they have to put you in a coma because your body will keep shocking to protect you. They put you in a coma, it'll stop your body from keep going into deeper shock and keep the consciousness there instead of your body just, pumping shock into you, and you might not come back because the body knows all the trauma you just felt. So they did that to him, and he walks out of the hospital. He gets in the first, I think it was the first crash that he got into. And I told you, Diana Patrick, whatever her name was, they crashed her on purpose too, one race. She was leading. And she said it. She said, it's one of the races where it's hardest of all races on the brakes. And she said, we have the best calipers in the world on our cars. We have special calipers for this track, calipers that will not fail. She says, how did my calipers fail? That's what she says on camera because she's stunned. They interview her right when they get her out. And that's what she said. She said, these are special calipers made for this track. And she was pretty much saying they're impossible to fail. How did mine fail? So I think she was giving a hint out there about somebody might have crashed her. But that's what they do. Now, I used to have the picture of the dude racing in Vegas, the open top cars, the open cart, the Indy class cars. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if the ones that race in Vegas. Maybe I'm trying to think just to get people to understand what kind of cars. Might have been an Indy. Well, again, Indy type cars, the person is exposed. So this car goes up in the air and it lands on another car. And this was probably 7-8 years ago in Vegas, but it killed the driver. I mean, the car, and there was a picture in Sports Illustrated showing him in the air about to land on this other car, and it killed the driver. So now even those open cart races have bars over them. So it's not just you open anymore. They put like a roll bar over them because of that crash. So there's technically not real open cart racing anymore, but for safety wise. But I had that picture and I wish I'd have kept it. But it was a cool picture they caught. But just knowing when he landed, he killed that person. Not to say he killed him on purpose, but just the crash was that devastating. Zakaba, thank you for joining me. 34 hit 2. Okay, 34 hit. Oh yeah, he was the one. He was the one bump drafting. I got you. Yup. 34 hit 2. So he was bump drafting. I got what you're saying. Yeah, he was bump drafting his teammate. Yeah, he was bump drafting. I got you, Jay. That's exactly right. He was bump drafting. Sure was. And he ends up winning. And that's how dirty this thing is. They don't even hide it. It's like how many times again, but on the other hand, when Legamo won his a few years ago, they did almost the same thing. So it's I lost money. Let me see. I lost money on the winner, and I lost money on the place because I knew Wallace was going to come in 23rd. Hey, Return of the King. Thank you for joining me. And I'll tell the story again. I apologize from last night if people didn't hear me. Again, I do this 6 days a week, and I stay up normally until 3-4 in the morning. If I stay on for 3 hours, I'm up till 3:30. Again, Central Time, and I tend to not sleep about an hour when I get done. And so I don't get a lot of sleep. And Saturday was real. I had to drive 45 minutes to go do some shit, make a little deal. And again, this is in the freezing cold, which was good for my car to roll, but I did it on 3-4 hours sleep. And so I come back, and the rest of the day, I think my daughter was here. So my son, I'm cooking and shit, and sat down to watch Saturday Night Live and fell asleep till early in the morning. So I apologize for not coming on. I do like to do this 6 days a week, but again, I'm not Superman, and I can't, because I don't have the 1,000 people subscribed. I can't leave a comment to tell people that I'm not going to be on. So sorry about that, and that's why I didn't come on yesterday. It's just a matter of really, really being tired. I mean, just really being tired, and so that's why we're here today, to bring the good times. That's all. To bring a little spirituality in it, in all we do. I'm in a thing, just giving some stuff. I be hitting people on Facebook and they be tripping on me. But I hit one thing. Again, if you watch Ken Burns talk about the Vietnam War, he does again, I'll definitely say watch Ken Burns baseball. That is so worth it. He tells you that baseball was started fixed. You come to my place, I'll win one, or we'll split, or I'll win both to make people excited about me. Then we go to your place, we'll do the same thing. The players were in control of baseball. But Ken Burns had a show on Netflix about the Vietnam War. A lot of the interviews were older interviews that he had replayed, used other sources. And this person says something very interesting. He's interviewed several other times. But then one time he's interviewed and he says, well, you know what? After a while, killing becomes easy. That's what this European cat said. He said, after a while, killing becomes easy. Now, what I wrote on Facebook is my experience with people in war. My great uncle fought with Patton from all the way in Africa When they first went, they first fought in Africa. So he fought Nazis in Africa, Italy, Sicily. And when Patton got fired, he went with Bradley all the way into Germany, France, and then all the way in Germany. Hated Germans and hated Japanese till the day he died. Told that story many times. My uncle, my father's brother, got drafted and was in the Navy in Vietnam. Just because you're in the Navy don't mean you don't fight on land. He had to go on land and they had to fight. Never talked about killing was easy. I have a cousin, a little closer in age. I imagine we were probably 5 years apart, maybe less. He went to Vietnam. He was the closest. I mean, my uncle was close, but my uncle was older. My cousin, I was closer to. You know, when I was a little boy, he was a teenager. I mean, we might be 7, 8 years apart. I don't know. But this is my cousin. And my cousin goes to Vietnam, comes back and tells, again, in the Navy, had to fight. And this was towards the end. This is when they had pulled all the troops out. So they didn't have a lot of help. He got caught fighting. Again, never talked about killing being easy. And as I told you about my ex-roommate, he had the experience with a 12-year-old little girl over there. I mean, calling whatever the fuck you want to call him. But a point he always said, he never said one time, and we talked a lot about Vietnam. He talked about how he ran over a tree to get away and live. He said the tree was about so round, and it was like between him running that motherfucking tree over and living and dying. He said he ran the goddamn tree over. But he never talked about it being easy to kill. So this is a point that, again, if you look at the book, 400 years of class distinction, or poor white trash as it's best known. They raise, no, let me back up. They have a class of people they call lumbers. There was a class of people, poor people. They brought a lot of poor people over here from England. A lot of street people is who they brought over here. There are more prisoners brought to Americas than in Australia. Almost double the amount of prisoners came to America, from children that they arrested all the way up. So at one point, they would euthanize, they would make where people that weren't as bright. That's where they get into the blood, keeping the blood together, the blue bloods marrying the blue bloods, of not letting a lower class person marry in, because the idea is their genes aren't as well as our genes. Again, they didn't want to mix that imbecile. And so reading her book, you see this word over and over again, imbecile. And that's really how they looked at it. But something happened. World War II happened, and they found out, well, they probably even knew this during the Civil War. They needed them imbeciles to kill. So if you look at a class of people that were raised as imbeciles, but we know on the pill thing, you give them pills to kill all their emotions, and then you let them loose on the world. And Vietnam was the first time they did this. So what we see is the rise of the imbecile psychopath, or also I call it the rise of the hillbilly. You see the hillbilly popularized. Way before Duck Dynasty, they started popularizing the hillbilly, or the imbecile psychopath. This is why the culture turned into Duck Dynasty, because these are Americans' killers. They're raised to be killers. That's why that shit on the 6 was not full of killers. They have real killers as part of them because they raised them, they bred them, they celebrate them. Real stone-ass killers, otherwise known as imbecile psychopaths. This is probably an American thing more than anywhere else. This is probably an American thing. She talks about it in her book. Now, she doesn't break it down like I break it down, but this is what it is. Because they always want killers here. The elites always want that. And don't think they don't make these killers generals, working in the government, mercenaries. Again, when I talk about the Department of Defense fighting the CIA forces, we always have mercenaries on both sides. What do they say? They're trainers. That's how they got away in Vietnam without declaring war at first. Trainers. That's what they left in Afghanistan. Trainers. And it's just funny when like there's a movie on Afghanistan where the Americans get their ass lit up. And what's funny about it is their attitudes. They're in an impossible situation, put in Afghanistan in some shit where the enemy has the high ground on them. Some dumbass put them there. And then they get their asses lit up. They kind of save them at the end, but they pretty much get lit up. It's also the thing that shows the shortcomings of the AR rifle. A lot of problems came out of the AR. Barrels melting, needing to be replaced, parts functioning after several thousand rounds, which goes back into when the ARs was first brought in and took place of the M14s. Them first soldiers, a lot of people got killed. You know, the toy company, Mattel, some of the designers was from Mattel Toy Company. I had a little plastic one as a child, young child. The guns didn't work. The guns needed to be constantly cleaned. The ammunition was fucked up that they gave them first guns. And they made them get rid of a 30-30 that anybody could be a marksman with. Superior weapon. You look at some troops talking about them first ARs. You know what they say? Because you're shooting 22s at people. They're 22s, modified 22s, to be honest. They were saying they couldn't even shoot through the goddamn palm leaves. Some people refused to carry. They carried their 14s throughout the whole goddamn war because they didn't trust them. And that was still the ammunition. You imagine trying to shoot at people and you shooting a full machine gun and it ain't even penetrating goddamn palm leaves. All right, I wanted to get that rant out. What's everybody saying? Preston, if I didn't say what's happening, Return of the King. Vids probably end up Adam Silver's office. Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't. They know about me. Most Def Return NBA and other leagues have agents, algorithms to monitor and protect the call. Oh, yeah, they know about me. They know about me. They definitely know about me. Hey, Rocky, thank you for joining. It's sad these higher ups can't be in the front lines. That's right. First time I shot an AR in basic, it jammed up. Yeah. I mean, they've come a long way. They've come a long way, and they're dependable now. You take care of it, but I'm talking about in 1965, these guns, I've studied this thing. I ain't just loosely talking. I'm talking about 25 to 30 years of studying this thing. Again, when I was a young man, I got the life books of all the Vietnam books where they would send you the book for 19 whatever. I forget how much the fucking books was, but I got the whole set. And I didn't stop there. Again, Dead Presidents shows a scene that happened to another dude named Gene. And I'm sorry, Gene, his story is in the book Bloods. But they took Gene's story and put it in Dead Presidents. Remember when they found the dude that was in The Sopranos and his dick was cut off and stuck in his mouth? Do you guys remember that scene in Dead Presidents? Well, that was this cat, Gene. They found an American like that. But the full story was this. They found this cat staked up like Jesus. They had peeled all his skin off. They had peeled all his skin off and cut his dick off and put it in his mouth, and the dude was still alive. Gene is the real one that had to kill this dude, but they put it in the movie Dead Presidents. Now, the guy in Dead Presidents, it's interesting that they don't talk about him because his squad found a 88 cannon that's now in, I don't know, one of the fucking bases. So they don't really tell his story. And the full story was what they did is one of them found out that they was burning money. And so they tried to rob them while they was, instead of them, what they thought of is they could steal the burning money. You know, nobody's going to miss this money. And exactly some of the shit where the preacher did giving out the money, they got away. And the preacher dude did exactly what they showed. The preacher dude was giving the money out. And that's what got him caught. So they put a couple different stories together. Yep, he also kept ahead of his kills. Right. And so this Gene Cat is bad because this Gene Cat tell you 5 or 6 crew. That's all they needed because that's how the North Vietnamese elite units was moving. That was the most successful in Vietnam, was the 5 or 6 person crew. Again, the DMZ was supposed to be no man's land. And Gene talking about they was all up in there, but it was 5 or 6 people crew was some of the most successful crews. See, this is the other thing that you have to understand on Vietnam. They was playing in cowboys and Indians in the jungle with no real reason or rhyme. I mean, just like I was talking about my great uncle fighting in World War II, they was taking land. They beat the Nazis out of Africa. They beat the Nazis out of Sicily. They beat the Nazis out of Italy. They beat the Nazis out of France, and they backed their asses all the way up into Berlin. So you have North Vietnam and South Vietnam. The Viet Cong were basically the South Vietnamese that didn't want to be with the fucking Americans. And they had some help from the North. They do the Tet Offensive. The Tet Offensive destroyed the Viet Cong as a fighting unit. And it looks like it was purposely done, to be honest. And then it was just a fight between the North and America. No, they never went inch by inch by inch by inch by inch in the North. Hamping Harbor, the only time they talked about, there was Hamping Harbor, and there was a railway that went to China. The harbor is where they got the Russian shit. The train is where they got the Chinese shit. Nixon was the only one at the end that said, I'm going to bomb the railway from China and I'm going to mine the harbor. They knew these strategies going in and they allowed it. There was some bullshit where they didn't want to make China mad. Now, if I'm fighting with a motherfucker and I see my neighbor helping him and you in war, you blow up the shit the way they're helping you. You fuck that harbor up. They didn't do that. That shows you it was staged. Again, war is about taking the capital. That's why you have to fault even the Nazis, the National Socialists, because the war with England should have been paratrooping in that motherfucker and then fighting their boats and putting people in England. It's a little area. And Dunkirk, they had defeated the British Army. They had them on a beach, 400,000, basically all the British Army, and let them go. And you watch that bullshit movie, and the movie show you that all these ships and all these boats helped them, and they just bombed the boats a little bit. That's not what happened. They let them go. Because if you defeat the English now, they let them go. So it ain't war like we think. It's sad. Hey, Draco, thank you for joining me. So this shows you that they was just playing with people's lives. They called it search and destroy. Was nothing but playing in the jungle with no rhyme or reason. You watch the movie Hamburger Hill. Do you know how many times they took that hill? It wasn't just the Hamburger Hill movie time. They had taken it 2 or 3 times before. It had no significance. None of the fighting had any significance. You're just putting the boys out in the woods and the boys walking around in the fucking woods or jungle. Now, what Americans gonna do? Talk, smoke cigarettes, wear deodorant, all the things that you can smell them coming. American cigarettes, you can smell miles away. And this is the kind of shit that they was doing. And people wasn't staying there for 1 year and getting to go home. You don't learn anything in 1 year. You just don't. It's impossible to create a real soldier with a year worth of experience in 1 year. It was actually closer to 10, 11 months. Now, you watch movies, Platoon, how short. That means the word short, and the day is short. And they have a thing where when the brothers were short, they had to fight to the last minute. Platoon shows a brother got a little slack. They let him go early. Days, he was like a week. He had like 2 weeks left. They let him go early. And then they had a thing called the $1 million wounds. Motherfucker got a wound where he out of it. They ain't got to fight no more. I had a friend that I thought got killed in Lebanon. I guess he didn't. One of my friends told me he didn't, but guy lived above me when I lived in Michigan, and this guy was there. He knew the dude. He saw my yearbook picture. He had a picture of my friend in the platoon, and he had told me my friend had got killed. He was one of the initial when they drove the truck into the American barracks area in Lebanon. He said my friend was one of the ones in front, and he had got killed. They only had found his head. This dude later drove his Jag into a creek. But he was there. He was there. And so luckily my friend did not get killed. But I wanted to say is my friend was my ex roommate. And so he was in Greensboro for a couple of days, and they was flying over there from my apartment. He had stayed a night or two with me. Matter of fact, I was going back to Michigan. I was flying the next morning out. So I was letting them, I'm like, cool, just lock up when y'all leave. And then that was the last time I ever saw him. It was him and another cat. Now, I don't know if both cats, I know my friend made it. I don't know if if the other guy that stayed with me made it or not. I don't know. But I was glad to hear. That was one case where, you know, I was happy to hear that he made it. I've been trying to stop by, but I've been busy. Oh, okay. I can dig it, baby. You know, stop by when you can. I thank you for the support. I hope I've subscribed to your channel. Shit, let me make sure I subscribe to you to get the good work. Because, you know, having to build this shit up again. Yeah, here we go. I think I subscribed to you. Yeah, I did. But the thing about it is, I think you got 2 channels though, don't you? No, just the one. Okay. It's the music. You know, I do miss a lot of the music that I've been collecting music, since 14? So a lot of the music, I've lost a lot of the music. So that's kind of a drag. It's trying to remember some of these artists. It's like I would remember some of these names and some of these artists. And so lost a lot of that. But Apple has most of the music. When you use you use YouTube's music, it ain't very loud when you try to go Bluetooth. It's very, the recordings aren't very great. So Apple is better in that regard. What about Apocalypse Now? What did you think of that film? Well, like if you noticed, Platoon used the same scenario as the narrative. Remember, Martin Sheen, who was just in the Panther movie, was in Apocalypse Now. The character that they use as Marlon Brando is kind of a copy of Chiang Kai-shek. Remember, Chiang Kai-shek lost to Mao, and so they show you an American gangster where Shek was allowed to be in the the Golden Triangle and sell heroin. Americans let him do that. Americans backed him in China, and Mao's forces beat Shek's forces. So I think Marlon Brando's character is a little bit of that, and they put him in it. It didn't show, it showed the dominance of the European Vietnamese soldier. Didn't show a lot of the humping that you see in Platoon. It kind of like the guy from The Godfather plays the general with the music blaring while they're blasting people. Not a very good movie overall. It wasn't a very good movie showing Vietnam. Compared to Platoon, Hamburger Hill, and the one that tries to show a little bit of Way City. What was the name of that one? Where they show the dude kill himself, he kills the sergeant, and he kills himself because they wanted you to understand about basic training. And I've told a story before. I met a brother that was a Marine, and I met him when I went to North Carolina. The first time I saw Winston-Salem and A&T. But he was a cousin of the people I was with. And he had just come home, and he was talking about they had some pit, And he said there was nothing but tear gas in the pit. I don't know if they gave you masks or maybe it was just smoked out, not tear gas. So it was just a smoke bomb, but you couldn't see shit. And he said when you went in there, if the officers, the sergeants caught you, they would just beat your ass. So he said you had to get from one part of the pit to the other, not getting your ass beat too much. But he said when they got you, they would beat the shit out you. But if you could get away in a few seconds, you would be in the fog and they couldn't see you. You could get away that quick. So he said he took a couple ass whoopings and he made it through. That movie shows an important battle of Way City, which is a very ancient city that they probably purposely destroyed. Again, a lot of the Vietnamese. What is that movie called? Somebody might can tell me what it's called. So Apocalypse Now, not a very great movie, kind of over theatrical instead of showing the real life. Again, what is this other movie where the dude plays the Joker? Well, he's not playing the Joker, but his character is the Joker, and he's a news agent. And they try to show Way City, which was a very ancient city. And again, during the Tet Offensive, they took over the North Vietnamese. It ain't even Viet Cong at this point. The North Vietnamese took over. They killed a lot of officials because, again, Way City probably had 1 million people in it. So they went from official to official and started massacring them, hoping that the people of Way City would fight the Americans, and that never happened. The Americans come in a street by street battle, which really Americans was looking forward to, is a full-fledged battle. What is the movie where the dude kills himself? It still hasn't come to me. He kills the sergeant because the sergeant embarrasses him during boot camp. So he kills the sergeant the night before graduation. That's it. Full Metal Jacket. Thank you, Rocky. Full Metal Jacket. That's it. Yeah, whatever happened to the 2.3 million? Yeah, $2.3 trillion. That's right. His name, Casper, whatever his name is. Yeah, $2.3 trillion during the Afghanistan war comes missing. People forgot about it before 9/11, and it's never spoke of now. Just like the missing Nazi gold that I'm sure the Bushes had their hands in. And look at their wealth. Their wealth comes in from the stock market, which they should have been killed as traitors, and then Nazi gold. I'm sure the Bushes benefited from the Nazi gold. The timing looks like it. So yeah. And so Full Metal Jacket should be another movie. To me, that would be to really show the movie. They don't really show it. Not like it should be shown. They're doing shit like the close-up shots where the guy is close up, you see the blood splatter, like that shit was new. They was doing that shit in 60s World War II movies. But that should be the next big movie about Vietnam, is the Battle of Way. A true movie about it. Hey, there is my brother, Revenge of the Ancestors. He brings the heat. It is nice for you to join me. I appreciate it. We are freaking freezing up here, y'all. It's supposed to be minus 23 tonight. Let me get into it. All right, y'all can see this shit. Get the light right. See that shit? Minus 15 outside. Right now, what time is it? At 10 o'clock, I was out in this shit. I had to go pick my son up at 10 o'clock. And you want to know the funny thing is, let me see. It is going to get, no, I don't need that. Minus 22. So by the time the children wake up and go to school, they might not have school tomorrow. Because if it gets minus 20, that means the wind chill, like right now it's minus 15, the wind chill is minus 27. But if we get a temperature, if this temperature holds at minus 20, they won't go to school. They'll cancel it for minus 20. But this is the funniest thing about living here. Now I have a Columbia coat. I have mittens that have 3M. 3M has what is it called? A weatherproof material. So these mittens have 3M shit. My leather gloves they ain't insulated, not really. But these 3M mittens is insulated, which is fucked up when you try to take keys out of your pockets. Now I have a Columbia coat that's got the shit My brother would remember this. There used to be blankets that was made out of this shiny shit that came from the Apollo space program shit. Is these shiny ass blankets. Matter of fact, the last time I spent the night with my father when I was in 8th grade, I was 12, 13. We shared a bed and he had one of them goddamn shiny Apollo blankets. So my coat has the insides of this shit. And then, you tighten it and it's no wind. I mean, the coats that they go to Mount Everest, they're very light now. They ain't heavy and they keep you warm. But this is the problem. You put your boots on. Now I'm still wearing my long underwear right now. So you got your long underwear on, you put another pair of pants, you put all this shit on and your hat. You are sweating like a motherfucker before you even leave the house. You are sweating like shit. I mean, you just being in the house with all these goddamn layers of clothes on, with the heat on, you are sweating like a motherfucker. And so by the time you get outside, the sweat freezes on your face. It literally, you know how sweat looks salty and shit? This shit will freeze on your goddamn face. And so I was just laughing because it's like I was doing some shit. And then I was like, well, I'm going out. I might as well get the cat litter and shit. I am like sweating like shit in this house with all those clothes on. I'm scooping up the cat litter, trying to do that shit quick so I can get the fuck outside. So I go outside and I'm damn sweaty. Temperatures went from 68 degrees to 12. Woo, in a 12-hour span. I've never heard that big a fall. Wow. The whole country in a cold spell. Dallas got the most snow I've had in 35 years. And it's -8. Damn. It never snows in Nashville. Okay. My man A got his outfit from a P. Diddy prop set. No, baby, this is Lurk. And this is that shit from Macy's. You should feel this shit. Oh my goodness. This is one of the Macy's shit. But this shit feels so good. But this is that lurking class, baby. That's the hot shit, the lurking class. Hey, Barbara, thank you for joining me. That's a funny one, though. No, if you can't bullshit with me, you can't bullshit with anybody. That's funny. I thank you for saying that shit. It's funny, though. It's funny. Oh, but yeah, it is a real thing when you go out. Like my daughter had a dentist appointment, and I ain't going in the city. It's supposed to be just as cold tomorrow. Let me see. Going into like her appointment's at 1, it's -8. Now, when you go to the U, the thing I don't like is when you go to the U, there's certain parts where you got to go in the car ramp. I mean, you just can't get out of it. Everybody knows around hospitals, they charge you to park around hospitals. That's a scam. The hospital and the city allows them. So you have to park and you got to pay. I mean, you can get them to stamp your shit, but when they stamp it, you still paying at least $5. So to come around the hospital, you got to pay. That's a scam they run. But this is the thing is we got to park in the damn ramp. Then we got to walk all the way to the building. And so, yeah, plus I thought the children had tomorrow off. Now, my friend, her children are off tomorrow. My children are off Wednesday. They go to school. I thought they was off tomorrow, but they got to go. They got to go to school tomorrow. So I'm not driving in town that damn cold. No, I'm going to go pick them up. That was about it. So my daughter didn't want to miss school anyway. So, but it's just the funny stuff of living up here. My son had a bully. He was watching a bully for a couple of days, and the bully got loose in the house. Again, this puppy is maybe 2 months old, but I mean, he's heavy. And the puppy went up to one of my cats, my female cat. My female cat hit that dog in the nose. The dog turned around, went back in my son's room. He was like, enough of that. He didn't want nothing more to do with being out in the rest of the house. He was like, oh, okay, it's like that, huh? That cat just like hit him with a quick jab in his nose and stuck him. Yeah, he turned around and went back in the room. He had no more interest in the cat. But the funny thing is we took the bully outside and he's like, he's not wanting to step on that cold shit. He went and did his thing and he ran right back in here. He was like, it was just funny watching. He was like, oh, every step was cold to him. And again, he should had a little dog shirt on and stuff, and probably even booties because it's too cold, it'll burn. He'll get some of that frostbite. But it was just funny watching. He was like, oh, it's not cold anywhere. Whereas my neighbor brought her dog out here, and he had a little coat on. He was walking around sniffing shit, like good to be walking around. So different dog. And this was a type of terrier, bull terrier again. But he was like, he's probably more of a mutt mix, but he wasn't like bothered by the cold. He was, doing his normal thing. I know. So it's kind of funny. It was kind of funny. And then the guy came back and I'm cussing him like, man, don't bring that dog back up here, man. What's wrong with you? And then my son hustled him. My son sold him the dog. The other night we went and got a dog pen. He got it for free. And it's a little bigger than the cat pen. I was like, man, that's for cats. He's like, no, it's bigger than the cat pen. So dude in this neighborhood, we he found it somewhere. He gave it to us for free. He left it in his front yard, loaded it up. He sold it to his boy for $20. He's like, watch, I'm gonna sell Dre the thing for $20. And so he did. He sold it to Dre, but he was just dog sipping. But it was just funny. This little husky built dog, and yeah, he didn't want nothing to do with that cat. It's kind of funny watching it. He wouldn't even come out the room after that either, because my son leave the door open and the dog wouldn't come out. The cat was going there looking at him and shit. They wasn't going up in there though. I'll say that, because usually they go in there and fuck with my son. When the dog was in there, they didn't go up in there. But when the dog came out, I guess they felt this was theirs. It was like, yeah. She jabbed him so quick. The dog smelling and shit. And she was like, pow. He didn't even see it coming. He's like, well, then it's like that out here, huh? He turned around. So, oh man. So it's I don't know. I don't know. Oh, where did I put it? Now, you guys know they gave me that Thanos brace. I'm supposed to wear the brace when I ain't doing shit. Okay. Again, I can't walk around with this shit. It covers my whole damn hand. So I sleep with the damn thing, and I'm dreaming. So I'm sleeping with this thing. So I start dreaming that the brace is like a killer brace and shit. And so it's like everywhere I go, if the brace, you ain't got to choke a person. But it was like if I touched a person with the brace, it was choking the shit out of them. It was like I touch them and they start getting choked. And so I'm dreaming this shit. And I'm like, after a while, I had to sit back and I'm like, damn, I'm watching this brace just touch people and choking them and shit. And I'm like, what is the point of all this? It's like, what message is in here about this brace and shit? And so after watching it for a while, I had to just stop the damn dream. I'm like, this shit is beyond silly. And so I stopped the dream, but I'm like, well, damn. So the brace is a killer brace, and I ain't put that damn thing back on after having that dream, though. I'm like, damn, who done hexed this brace or some shit? I'm dreaming, you remember with the mummy and shit, the mummy would just walk out with one hand. He didn't have any other moves but to choke. I never understood why people were scared of the mummy, because the mummy like walked with again, we did a thing in Michigan called mummy pimping. See, we didn't do what New York cats did, copying the sailors. We copied the mummy. When you saw a real pimp in Michigan, he mummy pimped. The way he walked was more like the mummy walked. But the mummy was just one hand. You would be doing all kind of fakes and shit, and the mummy would be missing you. But no, dumbass people, he would get that one hand on him and choke the shit out of him. And the mummy was cool with his. You notice when the mummy would choke somebody, when he killed him, he would just slam them down. Like, get down, mummy. Remember, he would like choke the shit out of a woman, and he would just slam her down. I kind of like that part of the mummy. I'm like, yeah, slap that bitch down, buddy. Hey, CJ. Hey, woke sister. Y'all remember how the mummy would choke him, and then he would just mug him after choking him. Like, shit, I like that shit. The only one I was scared of was the Wolfman. Like, yeah, probably not gonna get away from him. Dracula, they say you could just do that shit and he'd leave you alone, have some silver on and shit. He'd leave you alone with garlic and shit. But the Wolfman, it was like, you didn't really have a chance. That was the only one that scared me. I'm out in the woods and I'm hearing too much of that, how the wolves make that howl and shit. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna have a chance against this. I don't know, brothers can run fast. So maybe when I was younger, maybe, Richard Pryor said dude was running, dude was low running. He turned his hat around, low running. Maybe I would have a chance. Maybe as a brother, I would have a chance against the wolf, man. I don't know. That was the only thing that scared me. But I swear I ain't put that damn thing back on. You know, and life should be balanced. You know, it should be balanced. This is a good time as ever to do the divinations. And so the divination will start. This is 13 platoons, 0 cartoons, 8 tunes. We should be on 4 unit, and we are on 18 kin. And 18 kin is Estobaz, I believe. Esteban, ETZNAB, Hall of Mirrors, ritual pattern of no time, ritual stroke, ritual knife, sword of wisdom, and purification. Now, I've showed this before. Now, this kind of shows a little bit of the wave harmonic, but that's actually the symbol. If I went by, just as I use 8 wind for 8 wind deer and 8 deer, 8 deer and 8 wind, I kind of use the 8 of them. Actually, my birth thing would be 13 Estebaz, would actually be the year I was born would be 13, and Estebaz would be the energy. It's a little harder to say than 8 wind. And in the Toltec, in this image card, we see a Yanni with the symbols of self-sacrifice in his left hand and the symbol of a Kato in a pendant on his chest. On the top, we see a sky full of carved flint, signifying how everything concerning the individual is connected with the higher realms of the cosmos. From these higher realms, a protective hand descends. This means that the Yanni is protected because of the development of his higher awareness. Takapo represents enhanced awareness that, like a mirror, reflects the harmonious existence of the cosmic duality. It also represents the power and the wellness that arise from living in a harmonious connection with what is higher, both in physical and manifestation of the universe, and in spiritual dimensions as a unifying and sustaining force in the universe. This force is known among the Toltecs as Sanato, the sacred unity. Tapato also implies the tension or effort it takes for the carved flint or knife to cut open its way to achieve fulfillment. It's given task in the spiritual sense. Tapato represents not only higher awareness, but specifically the efforts you have to achieve such higher awareness. It also represents the effort of the purposeful life, which in turn promotes the achievement of higher awareness. These two reciprocal efforts sustain each other, what we call a sacred sustaining system. Thank you, my brother, for Revenge of the Ancestors, for telling me to slow down. I got it. Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it. But for the efforts of the knife to succeed in opening its way, the flint needs to be carved and polished. For you, this means that to achieve your full strength, you have to carve and polish it yourself. This is a consistent with the Toltec concept of human development, which is expressed in the old advice of the elders: sculpt for yourself a real face and develop your soul, so that you can see others and be seen by them. For your higher goal to be achieved, first you should develop yourself to have a real face. Then you must be persistent and sustain your efforts in the right direction, so that you can open your way to achieve your higher realms. In other words, direct your efforts both to the inner work and also to the external world. Trying to achieve something really valuable only by focusing outside yourself will be senseless, because the way you experience life is the result of the dynamic, which hopefully harmonious interactions between the two realms of your existence. Therefore, you have to carve and polish the flint first, and then learn to direct it to your higher goal, which sustain intent as your actions of the world. And so, some things to look for. Am I enabling my body to manifest my full potential? Have I been ignoring my body as if it was a crude flint, failing to notice all the power and beauty it contains? How much stronger, healthier, happier could I be if I worked on and polished my body? Do I have material resources, objects, or assists that don't seem useful to me? Could they be returned into something vulnerable for me or others? I find a new use for them. How could I improve my material status, and how can I use them more effectively to achieve something good? Make a list of the actions you can use to develop your body to its highest potential. Choose the more convenient and practical action from your list and plans for workout. Follow your program for a time. Be realistic and don't make perfection your goal, because it is the easiest way to get discouraged. Make an inventory of your material resources. See which ones you are not using. List the actions you could take to improve or use these resources more wisely. Schedule time to make improvements in those new acts. And I did fail to mention, I think the energy is the west. No, north. Oh, here it is. I think the energy is from the north. Yes, yes. So those of you want to manifest, you will get a push from the north. Where am I at? Oh, shit. So hope that is helpful for anyone. Let me show you a little bit of something. I don't quite have it, but I can explain it pretty easy. So there's another thing that kind of offers you this as well. And it's called cutting through ignorance. And so part of it is, so as this is the same as I'm wearing, but this shows all 8 sides. This is the Virja. You can get a thing called a puja. And what the puja will be, sometimes they have the head of Buddha. Other times it'll have this head, but it has a knife on the bottom. And a lot of people wear that. And what it does for you is it cuts through ignorance. And so as you're dealing with everything, if you wear a puja, you are cutting through ignorance. And it's the same thing as the flint they're talking about. It does the same kind of thing for you. It'll cut through ignorance. And so a lot of people not just wear the Virja, but they'll wear the puja to give you that extra. And let me tell y'all some goofy shit I did yesterday. So this is a new one. Now, one thing about these wax or these crumble ones, it turns into basically a type of resin as it burns on these coils. Let me show you. So in this one, you see you have these ceramic coils in there. You get smaller ones and they only have 1 or so, but this one has 4. And you put your splatter in there or crumble. Again, this down here, which is kind of a neat thing, is that holds the crumble or splatter. I like the crumble. It's a little easier to deal with. But with these, all of them, they get sticky. Again, what happens is it's melting, and this melting is going up into this piece. So this piece gets sticky. So I'm taking some alcohol and salt to clean this shit. My bathroom sink doesn't have a stop. For some reason it was taken out, even though I have a new sink before I moved in here, it was brand new. Never had a stop in it. So I've always stuck stuff in it. So cleaning it, I stick, I have a couple stops I just put in there. So I put a plastic cap in there, again, to catch it so shit don't go down. Well, you know my hands have problems. So I go to, so the shit falls out my hand, I'm cleaning it, it falls in there. Well, I'm happy because, again, I put a stop in there. And what I should have did is put my hand on the stop and grab this damn thing. I didn't do it. I went to grab it, and as I grabbed it, pushed the stop, and this shit went right down the damn sink. So I had to go buy a new one. I'm just clumsy as hell. But the new guy that lives by me was $10 cheaper. No, about $15 cheaper than the other one I bought. So it was kind of cool to know too. So, but it's keeping me funky. Hey, PJ, thank you for joining me. Woke sister, if I didn't say hello to you, what's happening? So the shit was funny. You know, the shit was just like, I'm going to get another. And I was hoping I didn't have to go all the way into, I think it's Savage. Prior Lake and Savage are pretty much like, you can be on one side of the street, you be in Prior Lake, one side of the highway. It ain't a street, it's a damn near 5-lane highway. Well, probably 3 lanes on both sides. So it's a highway on both sides, but it's like one side is Savage, one side is Prior Lake. And so it's where we're together. And then Shakopee, the city seat, is about 5-6 miles away. You know, it's all down under Scott County. So I didn't. I went around the corner. Like there's a bar around the corner too that they've opened up. And I'll tell you, I was telling my friend, this bar, my daughter got food poisoning in this bar. We had to take her to the hospital. Food poisoning was so bad. And but people supported it and kept it open. And you know, even when you couldn't have people go in, people still around here supported it. And now that it's open, it's packed every night. I don't know if one cool thing they did is they had live music. I don't know if they're going to have live music, but it's been packed every day. My son works over by it, so I drive by there every day, and it's been packed. And so these people kind of here stay together down here. And again, the liquor stores haven't had any problem. Let me tell you, a smaller liquor store has really expanded. They bought more coolers. I mean, the business is good for the liquor people. Again, they did not close people down from liquor. So that shows you the priority of the close downs. It wasn't any priority or boundary on liquor. I guess they were saying that they didn't want the bootleggers to come. And I know a girl who bootlegs. I told this story before. Just until the last year, they didn't serve, well, first of all, they don't serve liquor. After 10, you can't go buy liquor. All the stores is closed and shit. I hear in Michigan, you can't do that shit anymore either. Michigan, before this shit, you could buy liquor up until 2 o'clock. And you could buy it from anywhere. Up here, you can only get it from government stores. Sundays used to be closed. We had old blue law. That's old prohibition law. We had that up until a year ago. So people would go to Wisconsin. This sister, that's what she did. She hustled. She hustled on Sunday. She asked me to join her because she had got robbed. She knew my ex, and she was like, well, you just ride with me. People leave me alone. They see you. I was like, okay. And made a little money just hustling with her. And I'll dare to say we never got robbed. And we delivered to everybody. I'd walk with her into the house, or if they came out, whatever it was. You know, I was her guy. I wonder how she's doing now. And even when she got robbed and she came to me, she was like, well, they didn't get this money. They got a little bit of my liquor and a little that bullshit money they thought, and they didn't get the most money. So hey, I admired her hustle. I don't know how well she's doing now that liquor is sold on Sundays. Not sure. Kind of lost contact with her. But the adventures of the hustler. North Carolina was worse. I think when I lived in North Carolina, it could have changed by now, but you couldn't buy liquor after 9 o'clock. And you could only buy, and one thing that's similar here in Minnesota is you only buy liquor pretty much from liquor stores. Even if they sell liquor in the supermarket, it is a separate store. The laws are supposed to change. The laws are supposed to change where you can buy it from I know you can buy liquor from Walmart's, but you got to go ask somebody. You're like, I want real liquor, not that 3-point shit. Because they're about to quit making 3-point liquor, 3.2 liquor. I think Utah was the last state to do it. Now they're saying they're not going to make the shit. So they're about to pass the laws where you can't get the cheap beer. Because when you go to the stadiums and shit, they will serve you the cheap beer, 3-point something. Again, saying not to make people rowdy. They always sold 3-point something beer in the stores. Well, now it looks like the stores. Walmart, you can already get it. I don't see it in the other stores yet. So we'll see how this changes. But the liquor store, as a matter of fact, my liquor store would deliver. As long as you spend $20, they'll bring the shit to your house. And back when I hustled, that was one thing I would always do. I would definitely deliver. Instead of just sitting somewhere all day, I would take it. Again, when the pagers came out, the old pagers, the old doctor pagers, trying to think what they look like. The old doctor pagers looked almost like this. They was a little square unit, and when it went off, you called in. That's how the old pagers, I don't know if people remember them. That's what the old pagers did. You had to call in to hear your call. So it went off, and then you found a payphone or whatever, and you called in, and they gave you the message. And of course, everybody knows of the 80s pagers that started giving you the digital 2D. That was 2G. Pagers was 2G, or maybe 1G. Text messages was 2G. So 1G was just the basic pagers that everybody had. If you was old enough, I had a couple of them. You get the colors, whatever. And then they came out with the sky pagers, which to me was really cool. It was better than the two-way pagers. It was more people had the sky pagers than the two-way pagers. The two-way pagers, Michigan, they never became a thing. People wasn't doing them. You know, that never became a thing in Michigan. I noticed people kept their sky pagers instead of turning them in and getting the two-way pagers, because the sky pagers was giving you true 2G. You know, motherfucker, you know, when they could tell you what they wanted. You could give a person a paragraph and it would pop up. And even when I had cell phones, I kept the sky pager because it was just a nice little thing to carry. You know, people would give you a message and tell you what the hell they wanted. I like that shit. I'm like, okay, this is what you want. And you call them back, and you know, I like that. I still carry. One time I carried both until they put the sky pagers out of business and you couldn't use them. And the old Motorola's started taking the place of that, because the second generation Motorola gave you the page. It would be a phone and a page. So first Motorola's you had didn't have the pagers. You got the newer Motorola, it would give you the number. It never did the messages that I knew of Motorola's. They never gave you messages, but it would give you the number. I like the sky pagers, but again, they put the sky pagers out of business once the phones could page. And then the Nextels and all that shit. I know a lot of people that got busted with Nextels because they chirp you and tell the whole business. That's why I never liked that chirp feature. It would tell you the whole, you would be sitting in a store and somebody would, you know, just chirp you and tell some shit that you didn't want everybody to hear. And, you know, you forget to turn the damn thing down or turn that part off. You walk in the store and you stand in the line, mug done told you some shit that everybody heard. I never liked that. I don't know if people remember that shit, but I never liked that. I'm somewhere and this shit is like all my business. Or you be with your extra girl or your other girl, and a girl, you know, sitting there, hey, baby, when you coming over, what's not? And you forget to turn the damn thing down. I don't know how many people got busted like that. Just forget about the damn thing. People could just chirp you and do all your business. So it was something I never liked that. I never liked Nextels at all because of that. I never liked that feature because you would forget to turn that shit off. You sitting somewhere, I'd be sitting in school and somebody, you know, do some street shit to me I'm in the school and they hear all this shit. So didn't like Nextels a bit. And I'm gonna tell you, the bricks of all the phones, the brick phones was the best phones back then. You had, like, you would get phones in the early 90s that would plug into your car and then you got better reception. When they came out with them brick phones was good reception. Again, the first phones came out in the 60s. They had telephones in cars in the 60s. So car phones wasn't nothing new. But of all the phones that came out, once the Motorola phones, the newer phones was in brick phones, they was better phones. Early zeros, yep. I wanted to chirp Nextel so bad in high school. Oh, Preston said I went through that crap too. Yeah. I hated that shit. I hated that shit with a passion. It just, you would forget to turn them off and somebody chirping you and everybody could hear you. But the bricks was nice. And actually, if you really some ways look at what won, because it was bricks compared to, trying to think what the clamshells. Remember, they did this. Clamshells was really copies of Star Trek phones. Remember the Star Trek phones? So they killed the clamshells, and these is basically bricks. These is basically a type of brick if you look at what won. Beepers. Yeah, Tyrone. Remember the Gap Band said, call my beeper, call my beeper. With my girl that I want to keep her, I just hit her on her beeper. Call my beeper. Remember that shit? I was going getting beeper so often, the lady knew me by first name. And this lady's not with us anymore. I forgot, but she was so cool. Or you forget, you know. I remember my girl broke into my phone. She's like, why is Keisha calling you? Why Keisha expect you to come to the game? I thought you was going to the game with your friends. Why is Keisha calling you to the game? And so I would forget and try to reset my shit. And I had to take the thing in and like, oh, Miss whatever her name was, it died on me again. Or I forgot mine. She's like, you forgot your thing. And somebody probably got into it. Like, yeah, I forgot it. So it was always getting new ones. I had to spend 50 some bucks to get new ones and shit. Because I done forgot my password. You know, women always like, now women want to go in your phones. Back then, women wanted to go in your beepers. They try to see who's beeping you and shit. I remember my relatives was like, you have a beeper. You must be a dope dealer. I remember my aunt. I got an aunt only a year older than me. And matter of fact, the first beeper I got, I was working in security. So I had a beeper for security. And my aunt was like, you must be a dope dealer. And this was like, I had a couple of them, but one of them was for my job. But I remember my aunt was like, oh, you have a beeper. You must sell drugs. Well, I do, but not for this beeper right here. What are you tripping out on? What are you tripping out on? So that was the life that we used to live. What's his name? Ain't no future in the frontin'. He talks about having a Motorola phone. It's funny how music is dated. And he talks about having a Motorola phone. MC Breed, you know, ain't no future in your frontin'. He talks about a Motorola phone. And I've talked about the cloning phones. Now, my buddy J.R. Ryder got busted with chip phones. Y'all remember the Master P movie, I Got the Hookup, whatever, but they was doing chip phones. We was doing clone phones, getting clone phones. And I told the story before. My friend Nuke, he's down in Florida now. He takes pictures at parties, or he used to take pictures at parties and shit. But he had bought the cloning device. I come here and go back, and I talked to a dude, and the dude was going to give me 20 phones. All me and my man had to do was just give him some clone 20 phones. He was going to give us 20 phones if we cloned 20 phones. And this scary ass dude would never come back with me. It was like the business here would have been crazy. Again, they wasn't doing it here. And the cool thing about clone phones is they would last like 90 days. You couldn't make calls, but you could receive calls. So it was really cool. No, you could make calls, but how was it? Could you make calls? No, I think you could only receive calls. I don't think you could make calls. So you still had your pager, but you could receive calls, if I remember right. But the thing would last 90 days. It was like $70 for 90 days. And a phone. You didn't have to bring a phone. A lot of people had their phones already, but it was $100 without your own phone. So you pay $100, it would last you for 90 days. That is the only thing out of all things, because again, car or cellular phones were extremely expensive. They was taxing you. Like when I had the first phone that was in them bags, that shit was helly expensive. The first one was in a big ass bag, like a briefcase. Then the second one came in a smaller bag. Then they came in the bricks. Then later the Motorola's. But they was expensive. They was extremely expensive. And it wasn't until the clone phones and the chip phones that knocked the price down, because they had to compete with it. Because again, why are you going to buy a phone and it was like $5 a minute or some crazy shit like that. It was just crazy expensive when you could get a clone phone and still have a pager, way more expensive. One dude phone lasts for years. He had his phone, because a lot of times he would sit outside of Kellogg's or Post and just clone phones. If somebody used a phone, you got one of them clone machines, because it's legal to clone your phone. That's why the machines was legal. But shit, you could get right on the internet and it would tell you all the ways to build the clones. And it was legal to have it, because you could clone your own phone, buy another phone and clone your number. My boy was into that, and really we could have took the next step. Really coming here, it was an untapped market, and he was old scary ass dude. Him. Let me tell you how this. I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm not gonna say his name. I'm gonna tell you a story. He wouldn't do that with me and come here and make more money. So what happened is, the way this dude went to federal prison was, him and his woman went out on some holiday. 2 crackheads broke into his place, stole some of his stuff. This is a hustler, everybody. He hustling cane, he hustling everything. This dumbass calls the cops because somebody broke in his house. Cops come into his house. He had a plate of Yale right in his basement or something. And they bust him for that shit. Now the cops sent the people in, broke in his house, took his watch and took some shit. He had a pile of some shit in his basement, and he didn't clean up his house, and he went to federal prison like that. And he was worried about me. His uncle and his brother went down the same way. Both his uncle and his brother, stupid asses, going into hotels, FBI on the other side of the room. They selling keys in the hotel. Both of them went down like that. And both of them did big federal time. And they was worried about me. He was my man, and he's doing good now. Matter of fact, he was up in Duluth. It's a men's federal prison in Duluth, and it's cold as hell up there. You talk about a place you don't really want to go to jail is up in Duluth. It stay cold up there. You by Lake Superior. So yeah, that brother did some federal time. But good people. I mean, bygones be bygones. That's what I say. But he's doing well. All of them are doing well. They back with us, and that's a good thing. But it's just experience. Again, when you look at drugs and what they did to us, they took away jobs because they didn't want to deal with the unions. I've talked about my friend Beverly a lot of times. Beverly started in Kellogg's in the mid-'60s, probably the end of the 60s. I'm guessing she probably graduated in 66, 67, went right into Kellogg's. Don't you know by the mid-'90s, this woman was knocking down 100,000. Her and her man, Tommy, they're both departed. They're both not with us anymore. 100 grand, no high school diploma. People was working at General Motors, knocking down serious money. And because of the unions, the government allowed them to go to other cities and tear Kalamazoo, Battle Creek up. Matter of fact, there's hardly any Kellogg. Kellogg's was started in Battle Creek. Last I heard, they was trying to take the world headquarters out of Battle Creek. Battle Creek has zero production. Post is still there. Post is still there. I know Post watered down their salaries. If you wasn't in before a certain period, Post watered down their salaries. I mean, working at Kellogg's and Post used to be kind of jobs where, think about it, if you're making $80 an hour and you getting holiday pay, time and a half, or holiday pay would be triple time sometimes. And let me tell you sad stories. I know a guy working at Post. He ended up being a crackhead. This cat was making $65 an hour. Post did everything they could to try to get him not being on crack. So finally, they fired his ass. When they fired him, his 401k was something like 50, 60 grand. You know how long this 50, 60, and I'm going to say this, I don't know if this guy's dead or alive today. I don't. He was older than me. He went through 50 or 60 grand in 6 months. He was homeless within 6 months of having that much money. Dudes would do him like this. He would give them so much to go get some dope. They would get, like, say, a couple 8 balls, 7 grams. But they would give him only the 3 grams. And so he would tell them to go get more, and they would already have 3 more grams left. And so they were selling him his own dope. And that's how they did him until he was all out. Johnny. And I don't know if Johnny's dead or alive. I know his brother Junior is Junior's passed. And Junior had a son that was my guy. I don't know what happened to him. No one told me what he did, but he's in prison now, and he's in prison for life. He killed someone in prison. What I had heard that he got 3 or 4 years, and we was expecting to get out. Next thing I know, he got life. He didn't. When you look him up, there's no release date. And what I heard is that he had killed somebody in jail. So this young man that meant a lot to me. The sweetest personality, but I know his dad was on crack, and I think Rick ended up being on crack too. Matter of fact, his dad was one of my best friends, to be honest. Junior was a good friend of mine. And I know they found Junior in the front yard of his house naked, dead. And Junior was a good guy. He was a good guy. But again, he had addiction problems. But at one time, he was really a good friend of mine. He got full retirement from General Motors because he got hurt. Junior was probably making $75,000 a year while he was hurt, not working. And sadly, he got involved in all this, and Junior passed. Yeah. So these are people that you run into that you do see, what the system had done. Again, taking a lot of these jobs away. Addiction. A person that was really making money had a career. Kellogg's at one time, even though you was working production, it was a career. There's still people work there. Again, they showed a thing that showed 100 and some years of them staying in Battle Creek. Now, I don't know if people are making 70. It was like the difference between Post and Kellogg's was most Kellogg's people was making $100 an hour. Most Post people was making $50 an hour. That was kind of the difference. You was making 50 to 60 an hour compared to Post. Once you got in there at a certain point, you was gonna make $100 an hour. And a lot of people were saying that the jobs was putting the toys in the hopper. That was a real thing. But they eliminated that. They eliminated that. And I've told the story many times of my friend. She was making $65 an hour at Post. They wanted her to keep her job. She had to move to Nebraska and make $15 an hour. And they were like, well, stuff is cheaper. And she went down there and looked, and the houses wasn't that much cheaper. Cars is the same all around the country. They ain't costing that less. And she had a family. She had children. And she was like, wow, how do they expect me? I'm living on $65 an hour. How do they expect me to support my children and go to a place that ain't that much cheaper on $15 an hour? And that's what they did to people. For people wanting to keep their jobs, that is what they did. Again, Nebraska was a state that didn't require unions. And our government allowed this shit. Our government allowed it. Our government should have stopped this kind of movement and taxed them so hard that it wouldn't have been worth them moving to these other states. They don't do that, do they? The person in the new states is happy. They've helped their state. I told a story how I went to Mexico. I don't know if it was GM. I don't know which part auto industry. I don't remember. When I worked at Bentler, we did specific parts. Bentler actually was a robot company. A robot welding company. We had an arm where I had to train people in Mexico to work the CMM, coordinate measuring machine. Again, how you measure space, X, Y, Z. X, Y, Z. Like that. It's more like that. That's how you measure space. I'm not giving anybody a finger, but that's how you measure space. And these people were making basically $15 an hour. And for these people in Mexico, it was a life-changing event to the point where these people considered themselves wealthy. It kind of blew my mind. They were considered wealthy on $15 an hour down there. What do you got going, Barbara? Been thinking about alternative ways to commit if cell towers are compromised. Walkie-talkies would be good, but only problem is the range is limited, over 100 plus miles. Yeah, that's true. Even if you had a base unit, that is going to be. And then what you got to consider, even if you had a base unit, if you was within mountains, you might not get that 100. Like flat, yeah. If you're in a flat area, yeah, you'll get that 100-mile range. But if you're in a range with any kind of mountains, you ain't going to get that. But that is a good alternative that Barbara has said is if and Awakened One, I should get you with Awakened One because she's got all that kind of shit. She's ready. She's always writing me and telling me about these different kind of things. But yeah, walkie-talkies, again, the good thing about walkie-talkies is it would be a way where if things did fall apart, you and your immediate family could keep in touch as you move. Because you don't necessarily all want to be moving together. You might want to stagger the way you move. So the stronger people are moving through, the weaker people can follow to make sure where you're moving is cool. So that is an alternative that everybody should probably have. And then again, you can get the base station that'll be a little stronger for you if you do have access to electricity. You know, if you go somewhere and you can stay there. But again, remember, they're going to be affected if you're around mountains or hills that could kill your signal. So Good point, Barbara, for bringing that up, because that is something that could be very useful to you to stay with your family. But remember that, guys. Remember, if you do have to move around, remember to stagger yourself. You don't necessarily want to bring everybody through, because everybody, again, if you got old people with you, they ain't going to move as fast. And the other part that's cold is if you have to move around, you can't save everybody. I have no idea who this is. So now you're not coming in. 203, 202, I don't know you. And so just listen if you want. I'm not letting you in because I don't know you. But thank you for your interest. I blow big stacks, y'all. Full mountains too. Arizona's full of mountains. Yeah, that would be your only thing, is if the mountains could block you. But again, if everybody's moving where you in flat land, you'll be fine. But if you start going into the mountains and you get all over the mountains, communication could be a little dicey. So if they're still, like, say you go over the mountain and they're starting to get to the top, then you'll be able to do communication because the mountain won't be throwing you off. So just keep that in mind. And keep in mind, again, I'm going to say this again, you can't save everybody. My mother's 80 years old. If I really had to move, it's no way she would make it. Now, where she lived is on the 5th floor, and as a defensive place, it might be cool. I looked at that too. It might be a cool place to hold ground, because she does live on the 5th floor, and the building is pretty solid building. So I look at it as a place where I could control. Might not be a bad place to control. My son's mother, again, she couldn't she couldn't move very far. So keep that in mind, y'all. You can't save everybody. That is just a reality. I know on TV shows they try to show, taking the whole family. If the whole family, can move. Oh. Okay. Jeffrey, is that you? You're the only one I know from Connecticut. Are you in there, Jeffrey? Somebody from Connecticut is listening, but I don't know you, so I'm not going to let you in. Sorry. You want to listen? Thank you for listening. So that's some things to keep in mind. Again, water, food that you can carry. Ammunition is a bitch, guys. The best deals I've been seeing is 1,000 rounds for about $400 or $500. That's not a bad deal. 9mm ammunition went almost double. Magnum ammunition, and this is the problem that you would really face. Weirder rounds like the 357 SIG, maybe even 40, is not going to be very standard. The good thing about ARs and AKs is if you fight people, more likely they're going to be having them kind of weapons. And as they fall, you pick them weapons up. You could be able to use them. If you have ARs or AKs, get springs, get extra barrels. I mean, all these things you have to consider. Take your cleaning kits with you. Take mobile food. And if you on high ground, protect the high ground. But let's hope we don't come to that. And it hasn't come to that yet. What we see here in Minnesota, again, the people living on the north side are under attack by a police department they're trying to get rid of. Again, carjackings are up from 119 to over close to 400 now. 400 now. That's not done by people. And as I talked about the YBI days, carjacking people and cutting up the cars, those days are gone. Every part has a VIN on it. Every car part has a VIN on it. So those days of thinking you going into a shop, most shops ain't going to take them cars anymore. So there's no reason to steal cars. That's my point. Now, if you have what was the Nick? I can't think of Nick, whatever his name was. He was the Elvis lover. He married Elvis' daughter. If you have a connection to where you can take cars to Europe, yes, you can make money off of. But car business, stealing them, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with them? You know, it takes a very sophisticated organization to take a car and really try to flip all that, at least enough to get away with some basic things. I told someone that the other day. Yeah, carjacking. Yeah, it's went up. And so this is the government doing it. This is the police department doing it. The same way the police department, they all got fired from the clubs. The police doing overtime in clubs in Minneapolis, been doing that shit for 30 years. A lot of dudes make big bread. Again, we all know that Floyd and Chauvin worked at the same club. Chauvin was working outside. Floyd was doing security inside. So there's no way that Chauvin and Floyd didn't know each other. No way. They'd worked at the club for at least a year together. So the police get kicked out of all the clubs. It's a shooting at one of the clubs on the north side. And then it's a shooting at a club at another place. All right, 203. Thank you. Oh, you're not, Jeff? Just a random call in, seeing what the show is about. Hey, what's happening, Tim? Thank you for joining. Maybe next time you can come in. Thank you for joining, though, Tim. I appreciate you coming in. And so what we saw is a shooting downtown the first time in years. It had to be from the police. There's no way. People just ain't beefing like that and walking to a club downtown and just going to shoot at some people coming out. That's all done by the police. Now they're saying that the police on the north side of Minneapolis ain't really responding. Same on the south side, because they got such bad publicity. Their way to get back is to not. Their way to get back is to not participate, not help, not do their job. 100 of them. Check this shit out. These cops in Minneapolis is saying what post-traumatic stress syndrome. They wasn't doing shit when Floyd happened. They sat back. So what the fuck do you got post-traumatic stress syndrome about? They wasn't fighting nobody. They was back. They let them burn the 3rd precinct. They let them. The first day they tried to go there and they was busting all their car windows and shit. So they all pulled out of there and they let them have that building. So that made you nervous? You did a controlled retreat. It's called strategic retreat is what they did. And now they ain't doing their jobs. But what did Charles Barkley say, y'all? The rich parts of town are still getting police. Minneapolis has a lot of rich parts of town. Round Lake, Harriet. They ain't messing with them millionaires' houses. They still getting the police around them big houses. But they're not helping the brothers and sisters that live on the north side and the south side. They want to tear that Floyd shit up. You know, they made a monument kind of shit out of Floyd. They made it a roundabout. They trying to tear that shit out. So this is what people in Minneapolis are going through. And again, this was a test area. Even before Floyd, the Bastille, or maybe not, that's not his name, but the Young case and the Facebook Live case, that shit was all test. It was just testing how people react. And they knew how they would react. So that's why Floyd in some ways was caused. Wasn't just the spontaneous. They looked at it as we gonna cause it. They didn't expect the organic reaction. Again, it was so organic, then 3 to 4 days later, you see Black Lives Matter. You see all these celebrities start coming in. Black Lives Matters was dead. You know, off of Floyd, they damn near got $1 million off of Floyd in donations. And then the local Black Lives Matter was saying, we ain't seen none of this money. They got some million off of the Floyd shit. An organization that was about to die. But what did the news media do? Every time you saw a picture of Floyd, after the 3rd or 4th day, you saw one of their signs. Y'all remember that? They go to DC, you know, the country. They didn't expect the country to react like it did. And what they do is, see, when something organic like that springs off, the country tries to corrupt it. Again, watch the movie The Chicago 7. That's why you see Black Lives Matter in all the things. And what is the hidden hand, Boule, even though he didn't go to college, James. James is sitting on the sideline. He starts showing the hidden hand on his pullover shirt. Then he does the free throw, hidden hand again. That's why I showed the video of it. Here's a dude that's Boule and didn't go to college. How do the Boule justify that? The Boule is justified by brothers, the Booker T. Washington thing. Brothers going to college. Brothers getting educated to be equal to the European through education. And you got LeBron James with that shit tatted on him. He's a millionaire without education. How's he represent the Boule? It's money grab. Why do Black lives only matter when we're dead? Where to go, Draco? In Philadelphia, they did the same thing during the riots. The police were told to stand down on the cop cars that caught fire. There you go. Yep, money grab. Carjacking Chicago, according to media. Wow, indigenous. American Rican. Yep. George Floyd, a Freemason. Oh, let me tell you what I did. So Super Sly hit me with the video. I put that video on Facebook, and I think I was the first one to put the porn thing of Floyd on Facebook. You talk about people going crazy. People went crazy seeing that shit. When it shows the picture with the Mason on Floyd, it blew people's mind. It really blew people's minds. And I didn't anticipate when I put it up that it was going to blow people's minds. But that shit blew people's minds of Floyd being in the porno. I mean, again, it was poor, poor, poor. And see, that goes into with the looting too. They wanted people to loot because, again, people was feeling Floyd. Like, these motherfuckers is wrong. But then they wanted, the police started the looting. Again, they catch a St. Paul sergeant that's in the black that breaks the auto zone glass, starts the looting because they know how weak people are. Again, who wants Target clothes? What the fuck is in Target? And you know the sad thing, and I've told this many times, toys. Toys was the first thing to be taken out of Target. They cleaned out toys. I've told the story of one of my little friends that lives a couple blocks away. She goes into the Foot Locker. Ain't nothing left but men's shoes. 12, 13, 14s. That's all that's left. All the little shoes and the women's shoes is gone. So who's taking what? I mean, what's good in Target other than electronics? Okay, take the food. I get it. Take the food. Okay. But clothes? Who's looking in the Target was like, you know, they're looting in that Target, and damn, if I didn't like those Target sweats, let me go in there and see if I can find me a pair of those Target sweats. Or some boots in Target. You know, I really needed those Target boots. Nobody wanted that shit. They couldn't even give that shit away. But again, toys was the first thing cleaned out. So that shows you the mentality. Monkey see, monkey do. Monkey see, monkey do. That took the aim away. What do they say in communism? You take the individual out of achievement. Achievement is for the people and not the individual. That's communism. I blow big stacks. You know, I'm doing the Vape God. He did that shit. He was on CNN, and that's all he would say. Like, they brought the Vape God on CNN to really kind of put him down. And as they went to say how bad and everything, all he would say was, he would just blow the shit in the camera and just say, I blow big stacks. So that's where I get that shit from. George Floyd, a Freemason, woke people up the fuck up. Yeah, it woke people up around the world. They didn't realize there was going to be worldwide repercussions. And the only really, if you really look at what they did, they used this disease too. This disease went away. Remember, the disease went away. All the news coverage was on. And that's one thing I'm glad I backed up. I got all that Floyd shit. Again, they showed Floyd's girlfriend. Courtney was his girlfriend. And I'm going to tell you the two stories about brothers from Minnesota. So during the Iraq war, I told the story where I got offered to go to Iraq. If you stayed 3 months, you got 300 grand tax free. If you stayed a year, you got $1 million. I think it was $1 million. And maybe it was $500,000, but I think it was $1 million for a year. I think it was if you stayed 3 months, you could get 250,000 tax free or 300,000. If you stay 6 months, it was $500,000 tax free. If you stayed a year, you got $1 million. I got that offer to go over there. My ex was like, I'm not watching these damn kids, children. They're bad as hell. I'm not watching them. Wasn't able to do it. Brother went over there, was doing it. So the brother gets kidnapped. Again, they get ambushed. IED takes off the first truck. They are outgunned. This brother gets captured. First couple of days, everybody loves him. And then one of the Minnesota channels shows his wife. And she's pleading to bring him back. And again, she was a European. Yeah, they didn't get that nigga back. They showed that European wife. They forgot all about it. Now, how's this going to Floyd? So they show Courtney. And this is how they do it. They whip Courtney's hair, again, showing the mentality. They whip her hair, give her new clothes, do her nails. So Courtney's walking, and Chauvin got charged, and she's falling out on the ground in her new clothes. Crocodile tears fall on the ground. Then they start interviewing. They show pictures of Courtney and George, and yeah. Did the national media ever show Courtney, y'all? Brother comes in town. Floyd family gets $1 million on GoFundMe. They bring the daughter in. Mama got her nails done, wearing the best weave she could get. Where's Courtney? Did Courtney get any national media? And she's only a girlfriend. She ain't a baby mama. But where's Courtney, y'all? Courtney disappeared. No one ever heard about Courtney again. And that's how they do in this state. And that's how they do in this state. You never heard of Courtney. I'm one of the only ones that ever showed Courtney. But that's how they do. Well, you know that Floyd had that Courtney, and that's not a good look for us. But this is how they do this shit, y'all. This is how they do it. And it was organic to a point. It did wake everybody up to fight the establishment. And then this bullshit went away. So, and then today they put a thing out. If you get the pokes, the second pokes is like everybody's not feeling good. And they got all kind of shit that says, well, your system is getting ready. All the bullshit they give us. Let me read this shit. Second poke packs a punch. The first time, it's no big deal. Google, you watching me want to cut me off on my stream again? A neurologist in a private practice, his first dose was okay. But the second one, he was knocked out. Within 2 hours, his arm was sore. He developed flu-like symptoms. Overnight, had chills, body aches, high-grade fever peaking at 101. Now, my brother brought this point out. Revenge of the ancestors. Some people can't take a temperature that high. Some adults will die if their temperature gets to 101. Do you see what I'm saying? 102 will kill some adults. And they're writing it like it's no big deal. There are adults in this country that cannot have 101, 102 temperature. It will kill you. It will kill them. And they talk like it's no thing. It's not like a child having that shit. Child can have 102, 103. You should be taking them to the hospital if they do get that high. But I'm saying it won't kill them. This will kill some adults. No, I don't want that shit. Yeah, I'm not registering for it, so they're not trying to let me read it. Okay. Okay, they playing games and not letting me read this shit. They want me to sign up for some shit. Because I read it earlier and they didn't do all this stupid shit. Okay, they blocking me from reading it. Want me to sign up for some shit. But he wrote it out, and then by the next day he felt better. That's what they're telling you. But they're already telling you that, this is universal. And that's when they took down my other shit, I was saying what my doctor told me. My doctor told me she was fucked up on the second one. And she said her co-doctor was sick for 3 weeks. And it's funny, they kind of cut the other channel off when I said that shit. So what, you cutting out truth now, Google? That's what it is? You can't stand the truth? And isn't it funny they cut my other shit off when it was Democrats in office? Isn't it funny that my freedom of speech was okay when Trump was here? But all of a sudden, more people censored because you got Slow Joe and Sister Girl? I thought liberals was supposed to be about free speech. And I've said this many times before. Liberalism is a type of communism. It is an arm of communism. Like people talk about socialism, it's an arm of communism. Again, National Socialist. Jewish faith people made up Nazi. If you didn't know that, that's where the term Nazi come from. They didn't call each other Nazis. They called themselves National Socialists. Jewish faith people made up Nazi as a derogatory term. They ain't called themselves that. That's what happened in St. Louis. Mike Brown car parked on the side of AutoZone, cocktails thrown to windows, burnt down entire strip malls. There you go. I would have took the survival items if I was going to loot Target. There you go. They got that shit. There's fibers in COVID tests that can latch on and cause illness. Well, the funniest shit was when they, talking about swabbing your ass. I made a joke about that last week or week before. Everybody, you pull up in a big SUV and everybody's ass is out. They going around poking people. Well, I told a story, and this is a real story. My ex-wife has some friends that I know, and they had a brother that was kind of in and out homeless. He went down to, they call it HCMC, the main Hennepin hospital that's downtown Minneapolis. The hospital that's most of them, it's like North Memorial, and then it's Hennepin. It's the downtown big hospital. So he gets a call to go down there and get tested. When they stuck it up his nose, they killed him. So far as the family knew, he was just going to get a test, a checkup. And the next thing they know, he died during the test. This was shit. Back in July, maybe July. And like my mother would say, people getting saved is better. Like there's a story about this sister. The sister takes it because her job said her age and everything. She's overweight, got sleep apnea, diabetic. After the second poke, she goes to the car and starts saying shit ain't right. I read about this last week. And my mother says, sounds like she has other health issues. Do you see the propaganda? Do you see my mother turned into Smith? Do you understand what I'm saying? My mother, right in front of my eyes, turned into fucking Smith. She gave the answer that Smith would give. Not a rational person looking at it and saying it's too much if one motherfucker died. But that's how Smith works. So my mother didn't answer. Smith answered. But he used the avatar of my mother. YouTube is an algorithm in place where they hear certain words, and if they hear controversial words, they automatically label the channel as a truther. Again, yeah, I've never said that about myself. I know Zach says that shit, but I never said that about me. I never said that I'm part of that. Knowing is beyond truth. Truth, it can be perspective. But knowing is the real shit. Think about it like this. When my mother turned into Smith, she thought she was telling truth. You know, she thought she was telling truth. Even though Smith is going through her. And all this shit goes back to the me or the mine. That is what, again, Mu that we live on doesn't need to have 2 or 3 realities. Mu doesn't need to control anything. She gave us her lover, the water, earth, and the fire, or wind and the fire. That's all. And just let it play out. But the me or the my, again, this shit, okay. Aliens, yeah. Aliens, the me or the my is a fucking alien. This is the machine that was brought here. It's called the civilization builder. It has to have a cloud. It has to control all thoughts, all possibilities. When you go down to the quantum, the me or the my ain't there. Quantum don't need 2 or 3 different realities. It just is. It just is. But not this shit we live in. Like I was telling my friend, you don't think the government can go into the astro plane? Ethers? These motherfuckers can do remote viewing. You don't think remote viewing is a spiritual practice? Remote viewing is a spiritual practice. So these motherfuckers be in that shit. They be in the ethers and the astros. They've been in it. That's why they sent the dude who wrote Be Here Now and Timothy Leary. Because you know what happened is Europeans went down to Mexico, licked the frogs, took the mushrooms. They couldn't get shit out of it. Let me say that again. When the CIA sent the dude from Be Here Now and Timothy Leary, they would go down to Mexico, lick the frogs, take mushrooms. They couldn't break through. So they did the next best thing. Just like they did with cocaine. Took it back to the lab. And they made an artificial way to break through. That's called acid. That's what broke them through. They had to take a natural thing that we could take naturally that would get us there. They had to find an artificial way to do it. Because when they used the natural things, they couldn't get high off it. They couldn't break through with it. So they went and looked at the chemicals. And I told the story about cocaine. They watched these people dance. They watched our people dance for hours and days. Couldn't figure out how they did it. And they noticed they was chewing these leaves. Took the shit back to England and broke it down. And so they made acid. And acid helped them get through. They was able to break through, getting these ethers. Because again, this is the 60s. Up to then, that shit was just for us. Do you understand what I'm saying? There was hundreds of years these motherfuckers is here, and that shit was hidden from them. And it wasn't until the early 60s they was able to come in. So don't think when you go through these experiences, they ain't in there. Don't be that naive. They up in that shit too. And you naive if you think they ain't. Now, I'm not saying it's nothing for you to go in. Still go in it. Because you got ancestors in there that's going to help you. But don't be naive enough to think they don't be in that shit too. And they don't look to see who can go how far. They don't look to see what entities is near you. Or what entities you talk to. Because they try to follow you to a point, and they try to see how deep you can go in. That's what we're facing. They try to see how spiritual you really are. Or are you just talking? A lot of them niggas from New York that do a lot of talking about what spiritual experiences they don't have. Why ain't they told you this part? Why ain't they mentioned that the government can go in that shit? Any niggas from New York listening, why ain't y'all never mention that? You got to know it. You got to know this. But they don't tell you that, do they? It's cats with much bigger channels than this. Why ain't they saying that shit? Telling you that the government can be in that shit. Makes you think they might be working for the government. It's not just fun and games, y'all. Just telling you, if you do reach a spiritual point, remember, they fuck with this stuff too. And entities, don't think it's entities. Colombia. You don't think Colombia has a stake in spirituality? Why do you think they use Colombia? Here's a little homework for y'all. Look up the goddess Columbia, where they got that shit from, and why they used that. I ain't going to give you the answer to that. You look that up yourself. Look up Columbia and why they use Columbia as an energy to manifest destiny. Why did they choose Columbia, and why did they think Columbia could give them manifest destiny? You think it's just coincidence that these English used it? And that's the real enemy, let's be honest. Of all of them, is the English. The enemy of the people here has always been the English. Them reptilians, whatever the fuck you want to call them, the queen. They always been the enemy of our people. There's a name there. It's a people there. They ain't our friend. Long live the queen. They ain't got shit to do with us. And let me even tell you this. You really think them queens and kings go back to what was it? What was the Norman called? William the Conqueror. You really think that shit was real? You really think Genghis Khan was real? Ain't shit in the Russian steppes. Ain't shit there. How did whole armies live in the steppes, the Russian steppes, when they ain't never had any natural resources to support armies? How does man have a big army when there's nothing where he lives to support that? Go there today. Ain't shit there. So that's all lies. The real shit is probably 1800s. That is probably old as this shit is in some aspects in Europe. We know they covered up all the black nobility. Why you go to Russia and you see all the shit about Jesus and it be brothers in these pictures? Why they said they found a skeleton of a brother that's 40,000 years old in Siberia? Why is that? Why is that? Siberia. Why do they hide the melanated people in Europe? I wish PNN was on here tonight. He could second this shit. See, this is the thing. There has always been world travel. The Americas have always been known. Always. The Americans, again, I'm a time walker, so I know the time walkers was all in Europe. Time walkers did give a lot of this technology to the Moors. Again, mooring is a action, as in you're mooring off the shore. It's action. It's not really a noun, it's an action. It's not a person, place, or thing. Is it an action? You moor off the coast. It's an action word. If you dig. So it has always been known. They want you to believe that they was going across the Atlantic, which steel boats can barely do today, when the easiest trip is to go around, come down. That's the way they did it for years and years and years and years and years. Now the Sioux, Obawichi, all them started in the East. My people was up in Boston. The Obawichi was up in New York and got beat out of New York. We got beat out of Boston. Kept going west thinking they're going to leave us alone. They tell you about the trails of tears, but what about the tribes that was kicked out of the East Coast? Tried to go to Ohio. My family tried to go to Indiana. Shit, Indiana was one of the most racist places on earth. You got the Mennonites down there. Fight my people because we do well. And my great-great-great-grandmother had 6, 7 sons. Then we finally come into Michigan. And we bring a lot of our people in Michigan. Obawichi go into Michigan. Then they end up in northern Minnesota. And they did give them a casino. What did I miss? I read an article about mind control and how the government uses telepathic powers to give people compulsive thoughts. Oh, yeah, Ziggy, they've been doing that. TV is programming. TV's been doing that. Ads, just like the Rodney Piper movie, you know, when they show TV ads, it means obey, it means buy, all this shit. Like this today's date or yesterday's date is the nothing to get you to spend money. Sweetest day. Something I caught watching the Pacific. I told my friend this, and I'll repeat it. I was watching the Pacific. Again, we had what was the I can't think of now. When we were soldiers, some shit. No, it wasn't called that. Anyway, the Pacific is part of HBO. HBO had one show, Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers showed you what they did in Europe. The Pacific shows what they did in the Pacific. So they go to Australia after fighting in Okinawa, giving them a break. All these U.S. soldiers, again, Europeans, start dating Australian women. So he's sitting with Australian family, and he talks about, this reminds me a lot of Thanksgiving. Of course, they don't practice Thanksgiving in Australia in the 40s. And he explains what it is. And this is some shit I had never heard before. He said, it is something that President Roosevelt made up in the 40s. 40s. He said, well, people sit around and argue. So Thanksgiving comes from the fucking 40s. And don't make me tell the real story of Thanksgiving. They give a local, they go to a town. Now, one thing PNF says is there were cities here in America, which is absolutely right. There were cities on the East Coast, cities. And they would want cities. So they poisoned some of the men, and then they slaughtered 300 people. And they took over that city. Where they worshiped, they found the strongest ley lines, and the first thing they usually do is build a church. And they build their government right next to the church on strong ley lines. And that's what we celebrate. And don't get me to talking about 4th of July. The most cooning shit we see from our people happens on the 4th of July. That red, white, and blue shit, demonic shit, fallen angel stars and all that shit. We are the only people on this earth that celebrate our demise. And the metaphor I've said many times, and I'll say it again. The metaphor for the 4th of July is this. While we are out barbecuing and shit, it's like this. We as a people are gathered in the middle. We're barbecuing, partying. The Europeans surround us. and they bomb us. They bomb us. Despite us wearing their red, white, and blue, they bomb us. They bomb us. Do you understand? The bombs is mean for us. And we celebrate that shit. Not only we glorify that shit, we go along with the bombing. We give them extra ammunition. Keep bombing us. We're happy with you bombing us. To them, that's what we look like. We are in the middle getting bombed the fuck up while these people, we celebrate it. We give them ammunition to bomb us. And you can't look at it any other way. And we celebrate that shit. It ain't the victory over the English. They never did victory over the English. Because if it was true victory over the English, they wouldn't have kept Canada. If you expel a motherfucker, you expel him from all the land. How they keep the islands? How they keep Jamaica? How? Explain that to me. You're supposed to beat these people. All that shit is technically in the Americas. They let them have them islands. They let them have Canada. And they'll tell you stories. Well, they went up there and tried. No, goddamn, those Canadians just kicked their asses out. So why didn't troops keep pouring into Canada? They only tell you 2 or 3 battles. And they're like, fuck it. That Canada shit just is a motherfucker. We went into Canada and damn, we couldn't kick their ass here in America. But damn, when we went into Canada, they were just tough. Does that make sense to anybody? So that shows you what they really did in the Revolutionary War is broke up the land. As they called themselves conquering and defeating the British. And in fact, what they was doing was taking more of our land and making deals. That's what the revolutionary lie. They ain't never really war on each other. Yeah, they killed a few people, but that was just show. When in reality, they was taking more land and agreements of giving up what lands and splitting the shit. Same way with the Civil War. Had nothing to do with slavery. Nothing to do with slavery. It was the Jewish faith people and the Jesuits wanting those lands that they had no hand in. They had no hand in. So they make all these lies up and try to get, and this comes from just the feds. The feds are the ones that wanted the lands. So the feds pushed the propaganda to all the Northerners. How bad it was down there. Now, part of what they said is true. A lot of poor white trash was still slaves. That is who Lincoln freed. Let's be honest. A lot of them Irish. And again, I point to the gangs of New York, how they looked at the Irish. Look at gods and generals. Look at gods and generals, how when they try to attack Fredericksburg, you had a platoon of Southern Irish and a platoon of Northern Irish, probably more than a platoon. But you had Southern Irish fighting Northern Irish, Irish fighting Irish. And go back to gangs of New York. What happened in gangs of New York? As soon as they got off the boats, they was flying, they was sailing in another boat down south. 80 generals were from Europe on the northern side. 80 European generals. Now, does that sound like, what state is these 80 generals from Europe? What state do they represent? Nothing but the feds. Hey, Crazy Sarge. They whitewashed Kemet as well. Somewhat. Queen Callie was a mythical black queen of California, but I believe she was, I can get into that too. I'll get into that in a second. Can't see the melanated people did not fight in the Civil War, actually fought on the Confederacy. Good. Yeah, absolutely, Rocky. They named a state after her. If they weren't going to war over no damn slavery, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, and this is a lot of just study, and it is kind of somewhat myth, is getting to who was Queen Callie and where did they get those ideas from. And it goes back to really Mu. and women not needing the men. Like if people ask what came first between the chicken and the egg, it's the woman. I mean, men come from women, and that rib shit is some bullshit. Men come from women, and there's no way to get around that. So back in the ancient days, there wasn't no men. It was a point where there wasn't no men, where there weren't men. And I know PNF probably don't agree with that, but take it deep and you'll see. But what Cali comes from is those stories of when the time when the land didn't have men. And it was able to conceive without men. And we still know insects, and some, well, insects, I'll say, can have babies without men. So there was a time women could have babies without men. And so, again, when you go into the Amazon, because Cali is basically looked at as an Amazon queen. So these are very ancient times. It's hard to talk about this because it ain't a whole bunch out there that talks about it. But if you can tap into it spiritually, you see what they mean and what the stories are and the power behind the stories. And what do we see now? Again, the European is monkey see, monkey do. Look who they try to say these ancient people was. They try to say they're Europeans. That's what Wonder Woman is. Right? Y'all saw Wonder Woman, that terrible movie? They try to take the Americans' power, the American stories, and make it their own. European people ain't that old. They ain't been here like they try to tell you. They ain't that old on the planet. Not at all. That is the lie to say these people are old. Like somebody met Kemet. Again, I don't even know how ancient that shit is. Doesn't seem very ancient, but yet they rely on it. They rely on Kemet because it's supposed to go Kemet, Greece, Rome. That's what they count on. Kemet, Greece, Rome, where all they supposedly knowledge come from. But I want to stay on Wonder Woman. So do you see? They try to come to a continent and use the continent stories to create their own heroes. Wonder Woman is based on what I'm trying to tell you existed. But they try to use it. And they had nothing like that. Nothing like that in Europe. Nothing like that in Europe. Ain't shit wasn't even in their stories. Women were here first. They reproduce using pathogens. Women were here first. Yes, the whole rib thing was to masculate the story, saying you have to give her your bone to reproduce. Exactly. It's saying you got to rely on him, and it wasn't like that in the beginning. And I'll say this. Some of this shit is hard to break into. I mean, if you have like this is the thing, and you can look at it as you can judge it how you want to be. When some of the Europeans that weren't coming over here always started coming over here, a lot of the higher societies was able to rise up. Again, I've talked many times about LiDAR and what they're really trying to look for. They're really trying to look for the generators that keep these cities up. Because there is a reality where these people, they weren't able to rise everybody. But the higher societies just whoop, y'all can have that shit. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And that's really their attitude, which is kind of fucked up, to be honest. They didn't take everybody. Now, I don't even know if I'm going to say this shit because they felt a lot of these people wasn't worthy to be risen. Let's be honest. That was their attitudes. In some ways, they felt like they was the gods over these people. And that these peoples who kind of worship them and some of their people in their society, because that's how they put themselves to the people. But when it came time to get away, they didn't take everybody. Did not. So you get El Dorado, Shangri-La, all those type of things. Now, getting back to the LiDAR. That is what they're looking for, how to bring that shit down. That is all LiDAR is doing. They're looking for the generators to make them come down, because this is something they're not there. They are not there. They cannot fuck with them people. But they're trying to go through because they know that the generators are in South America. And that's what LiDAR is looking for. They don't give a fuck about these old civilizations. Look at the motherfucker that got lost, Z. Remember the Z movie where he finds some shit and they kill him in the end? He never goes back to Europe. What do you think they really was looking for? They was looking for ways to bring that shit down and use their technology, because they look at them as having the technology, the thing they call Atlantis. I was telling my friend earlier, look up Plato, what Plato describes as Atlantis, and that shit is the Cortez, Mexico City. Canals, hanging gardens, zoos in the city, million people living in the city of canals. Look it up. If anybody has the Gnostic Bible, they put the Plato shit in there. Look up Plato describing Atlantis. And it ain't nothing but that city in Mexico. When he supposedly lived way before then, but yet he's describing Mexico City. Tanakanen, whatever it was called, please, that's probably the wrong way to pronounce it. That's what Plato describes. They want to call that Atlantis. That's why I'm saying Venice comes after. Venice comes after they saw how they did it in Mexico. Venice ain't been here like they try to say it's been here. That's a lie. Venice, they see that shit in Mexico City, they go back and they see the technology, how to do it. And they create Venice after. But they want to tell you that shit been here. Can't believe shit that come out of Europe. Because you know what? The same families control the information. The same families control the information. So do you think that shit's believable? When you got 10 families controlling the information? I tell you, that's the good thing about the mud flood research. It shows you this shit ain't that old. Now, I don't agree with them because, again, it becomes Aryan for them. That Max Ingram down in Australia, and they took his shit off. But because he brought a lot of other things. But when Max talks mud flood, they talking about an Aryan race that lived here thousands of years ago, which they never had. That's what it means to them. But they just proved my point. This shit ain't that old. I mean, that's the reality you really got to look at. All this history shit ain't that old. It doesn't go back far as they say it goes back. All them pictures, all that shit is just fake shit. It ain't none of that shit real. Dr. Fozzi is a Jesuit. Yep, absolutely. To find the generators, I think they have to find the cities under the jungles through the people would never live with them or close to them. Young, I'm sorry, I'll just pronounce it. I'll just say Russ. Hey, Russ, thanks for joining me. But LiDAR is trying to find that shit. LiDAR is trying to find that shit. That's what they're looking for. LiDAR does not mean anything to them. They've known that all these other cities was there, but that's what they're trying to do, bring that shit down. And there's nobody to fight them. And so the thing about it is those beings is going to have to come back down. They're going to be forced to come off Mount Olympus. I caught some mud flood Tartarians trying to, there was white males saying that, right, exactly. Yep. With the Meek Mill and 6ix9ine whole thing scripted. I think so. I think it was. Most of them kind of things is always scripted. That is all they know is division. Again, you sign, what does Sly say? You sign them contracts. That shit don't go away. You fucking sign a contract with you running or you moving, depending on what level he's at and what year, on how the hologram was. I think the shit Michael Jackson and Prince signed, it was just like a 3D picture, but not anymore. It's that Harry Potter shit. That Harry Potter shit. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Ziggy said, yeah, it was scripted. But it's again, the new shit is you moving or playing. If you a singer, you singing in your, it's the Harry Potter newspaper. Remember when the articles of the newspaper, people moving and shit? This is the contracts they sign now. You are seeing whatever you do. Like if you're a race car driver, you are racing in a picture and you got to sign through that. If you're a track star, you are running and you signing that. You a hooper, you are fucking watching yourself hoop in this paper and you signing that. Same with a football player, actor. This is the shit they sign now. It's deeper than blood. I think AD is faking. It's just like Durant. Durant was faking. He ain't tear his Achilles. Now, I'll admit, I let him shoot my ankle up to play a game when my Achilles was bruised. I got cleated Wednesday. Thursday, I couldn't walk at all. And damn if I wasn't running fucking Saturday. And actually, if I would have had this much room, I would have caught a touchdown, but I was out of bounds. Fucker threw the ball out of bounds. And even the picture that's in the yearbook, I'm catching and I'm on the out of bounds line. But we was at home, they should have gave it to me. Those contracts show that stuff, like legit. Yeah, it's called the hologram contracts, but it's evolved. Again, what Prince and Michael Jackson signed it's far more. Again, go back to Harry Potter. Look at the papers where they're looking for Sirius Black and he's moving. That's how the contracts come out now. It is that serious. So it's a bond. It's a block. You are locked. It's a lock. It locks you into it. When you are moving in action like that and you signing over yourself, you are locked, bond to whatever who holds that. But that's how deep it is now. That is how deep. Especially the big people. The big people, that's the shit they go through. And that's why it ain't easy to get away from. Because you signed that. And so this is the thing. And this is what, I don't know, Zach really gets into this part, is this is the agreement that you make where they tell when you're going to live or die. You are agreeing that they can say when you live or die. Look at Mary Wells that just died. Wasn't nothing wrong with Mary Wells. They got Mary Wells a few days before talking about her new album. Then Mary Wells dies in her sleep. Healthy. Still a healthy woman at 76. And even her people are caught off guard because she wasn't sick. She didn't just suddenly, COVID, she didn't have none of that shit. She died in her sleep. So this is the price they pay for fame. Again, the biggest one is Al Jarreau. Al Jarreau, they kept that mug alive for 3 years before they sacrificed him. I think Monty Schottenheimer was probably the same way. It was somebody else, and I didn't write his name down, but it was a couple other celebrities that got to be tied into the Super Bowl ritual. Because did you notice it was 2 or 3 that died like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Some other celebrities died. Excuse me for not, I don't think I wrote their names down. And they still, and that put the ritual up to 25 people. Because what they did is I was on their ass. And so they was like, okay, we can't kill them during the Super Bowl. Let's see a couple days after. They can't tie that in. But a celebrity died Monday, a celebrity died Tuesday, and a celebrity died that Wednesday after the Super Bowl. A lot of them faked their deaths. Well, I'll say this, and I know Zach is a big believer that Tupac didn't die and that Biggie didn't die. Some instances is possible, but this is the land of killers. It's easier to kill you than to try to give you a new identity and hide you. Now, there are people that do get hidden, yes. But most of all, it's easier to kill you. It's cheaper to kill you than to hide you. Now, I know last week I was saying people that don't die, people look alike. Again, I told the story. I saw Charles Manson. I know I saw Charles Manson. I don't remember I was in Michigan or here. I don't remember. But I saw that motherfucker. It was him. It was definitely him or one of him. So these people live among us. So if they do give these people new identities, they don't go to no island by themselves. They just keep living. Again, nose job, eye job, you look different. But it's cheaper to kill you. They ain't got to do all that. So do you think Tupac had enough money and juice behind him to stay alive? Or even Biggie? Who cares? It's easier to kill them. I don't see them as important enough that the machine would want to keep them alive. They wasn't important enough. Not saying impossible, but I'm saying it doesn't appear like they was important enough. A lot of them, yeah, quite a few celebrities croaked. So when you consider that, look at that part too, because it's easier to kill people. And believe me, America got some of the most efficient killers. That's why all that shit in the Capitol cannot be called they was trying to take that shit down. Because we know when these imbecile psychopaths, they want to kill somebody, they just go in there and kill them. They would have just found bodies laying around that place. Killers don't take cameramen with them and the news with them. Hey, we're going to fuck these people up. Come on. Unless they're in another country. Now, they'll take the camera people with them when they're in another country, but not when they're in America. They'll move in silence when they come after somebody. These people don't play. These people are serious killers. We got the most efficient killers in the world. Now, so does Israel. Shit, Israel helped them people with Saudi. They helped them Saudis. Again, you had a CIA operative. And on the Saudi side, you had Department of Defense. And when that man went up in there, the Mossad and the Department of Defense, they put the most efficient people, could not only cut that man up, but cut him up where very little blood is left in that joint. And they cut him up in 20 minutes. Do you know how efficient a killer you got to be? To have wide enough plastic and knowing how you could put his body parts that are fit in just a normal looking bag. You think that's done by some freaking amateurs? You think just the average people can do that? No. These are the most efficient people that have been doing that kind of shit. They quartered that man, put him in bags, and they found trace amounts of blood. That's the only reason they linked him. There was traces amount of blood. Because again, you cutting a motherfucker up, blood is going everywhere. They only found very little bit. Enough to say, matter of fact, it might have just been like some spit or some shit. Enough to say this motherfucker been here. That's how they did that, brother. Yep, they give them plastic surgery and play a different role. Yeah, they can. Pac was more influential, I feel, but I understand. I just don't know. He was an agent from a very young age. They came from agents, so it looks like he played a part. I feel like they killed off his character to push the drug using rappers like Lil Wayne. Kind of, I can see that a little bit of that. I can see a little bit of that. But yeah, it's not hard to put a person in a different role. It happens, depending on the person. But not all of them. Again, it's cheaper to snuff somebody than to continue him and go through all that cost. Again, it depends on the person. Was Pac, what? I just don't see the money behind him getting that done. Unless his mother was considered a sacrifice. I don't know. Same with Biggie. I just don't see where his family had enough influence that they would he would get the opportunity to be somebody else. Kind of hard to see that. That reporter that was in Canada, remember the reporter that they quartered? he was in Turkey, and they wouldn't turn him over to the Saudis. And so what happened is, because he was from Turkey, no, let me get this right. This guy was a Saudi hiding in, man, I can't even remember the country, but the country had a Turkish embassy, and this cat was Turkish. And so he had to get some papers done. He was a reporter that worked for the CIA, though. He was a reporter that worked for the CIA. And so they tricked him in going into the Turkish embassy. And so that just shows you the Turkish embassy had to be in on it to give him a room to do that. Can't remember his name. You have to look up his name. Just see the guy who got killed in the Turkish embassy. But he was a reporter that was CIA. He was CIA, and the Department of Defense was with the Saudis. So that was our government, taxpayer money kind of working against each other. Masagi or some shit was his name. I've seen some people with beautiful Native American tattooed images on their skin. I heard preachers say they're getting tattoos and piercing and opening of the devil. It's a sinful way of life. I don't know. I don't know about that. If you looked at what the Americans did, and the oldest picture, and this is the book over here, the oldest picture of the Americas shows some tribes from the 1500s after Cortez, like maybe the 1580s. And you take what a lot of did like Eight Winds family and Eight Deers family. They couldn't defeat them, so they just said, look, take our names, we'll leave you the fuck alone. You guys just rule this area. And so they're showing this nobility, and the nobility's wearing the native plates. And what we did a lot in America is we would cover the orifices. So you see that plate coming out of the nose, it covers the mouth. You see the ear spools. You know, now they're looking at them as stretching their ears out, but actually the ear spools was covering this orifice. So you would cover this orifice and you would cover that orifice. I don't see that as opening up a dimension to anything, to be honest, through the tattooing. It is fairly all through the Americas. You look at the Inuits, I think that's how you say it, in Canada, and, you know, they would always do this. So I don't know, Barbara. I don't think the tattoos and the piercings have anything to do with demonic. It's too old. It's older than demonic, to be honest. Especially when they're talking about the Christian being demonic in the Christian kind of way. It's older than that. And so I don't think so. I really wouldn't agree with that. My knowing doesn't show that that's demonic at all. It's a form of expression. It's a form of body art. Again, piercings, they've been doing that shit forever. Now, one thing the Moors don't really say, and I'm one of the few that say this, is those that look at the old pirate movies. See, the old pirate movies copied Moors. They copied their style. They copied the earrings. The first men I ever saw wear earrings was pirates. Was white dudes being Moors. Again, they're copying the Moorish style and wearing earrings. And then, of course, you know, the African thing of wearing an earring in your left ear. A lot of brothers copied that. But the first time I saw men wearing earrings was pirates. That was all I ever thought when I saw dudes wearing them, was these dudes trying to be like pirates. But again, the pirates was copying the Moors kind of style. So very old. I think the practices is older than Christianity. That's my only thing, Barbara. Or Khashoggi. Yeah. Oh, Khashoggi. Yeah, that's his name. Thank you. Thank you, Rocky. Yeah, Khashoggi. That was the cat that they killed. They quartered his ass. Took him out in a small bag. Well, it wasn't too small, but it was small where in 20 minutes, they quartered him in 20 minutes. And it was barely a trace of his ass in there. And the Saudis gave up 1 or 2 people for that shit. But that's it. Don't do it like that. There's tribes that stretch their necks like 1 foot long, or cultures where they cut off their pinky toe at birth. Look it up. Yeah, well, you know, if you look at the Chinese people, they would bound their feet because they thought that having small feet was sexy. So a lot of Chinese would bind their feet where their feet would never be like women's size 3 or 4. And so, yeah, it's kind of a similar practice that the Chinese did. Yeah, it's like Japanese people love necks. It's like the sexiest thing to them about a woman is necks. And then if you watch the anime and even watch their movies, watch how the necks are left out. because again, that's their idea of beauty. Where Americans is boobs and butts and pretty, where the Chinese think its necks are sexy. So it's different. These different cultures have these different kind of things that they look at. Speaking of body mop, what is a circumcision about? It's a type of curse, to be honest. Yeah, I don't have random call-ins. It's a type of curse, to be honest. It takes away a lot of the sexual feeling. I'm gonna say that again. Circumcision takes away a lot of the sexual feeling. They try to make you think that they do it because of we're cleansed, and nah, we are copying a Jewish faith tradition, and we are almost forcing America to do it, forcing our children, forcing that on our children when it ain't really is for them, but it's really taking away the true feeling of sex. I mean, just think how good sex is, but it's even better when you have that. My uncle had that, and then he got it done when he was in his 20s or 30s, and he said the shit was painful. But it takes away from sex. That's why they do it. It limits you in a lot of ways. And as good as sex is, you talk to the people that kept their foreskin. It's even better. Remember being circumcised? Fucking hate being you do. I don't remember. The circumcision, okay, Hugo, he says the mark of a slave. Well, there you go. And that's what the Jewish faith people tell you, that they was once slaves. That they was once slaves, Marduk slaves. And the funny thing about the Jewish faith people, they're taught by the Greeks how to read and write, and then they make fun of the Greeks because the Greeks in the anal, they make fun of the Greeks in Sodom and Gomorrah. They are making fun of the people that taught them. I blow big stacks. My friend had to get circumcised when he was 19 because he caught a disease that prone to non-circumcised people. And JR, I'll say this, that is what they tell people. Now, my nephew was never circumcised because, again, they thought he had a condition where he might have bled, so he wasn't circumcised. That is what they tell most people why you should, that you can get some type of infection. But I've talked to other people that live their life like that, and they say, long as you clean yourself, you will be fine. So yeah, I've heard what you're saying too, and that's my uncle. That's why my uncle got it done. He was 24 or 25. The very same thing. He was told that he had some kind of something. Yeah. So but they tell a lot of people that. Yep. So yeah, that's not a that's could be that's a reason that they gave people. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. But I think overall we didn't need that. I'm gonna say this: when my oldest son was born, he didn't cry. He was just loved, and when they did that to him, that made him cry. And getting even deeper, my brother gave me some readings by Stephen Gamble. And Stephen Gamble probably put it the best. You can't even find this cat anymore. But Stephen Gamble put it the best as you're teaching children not to trust the world. All of a sudden, you're getting love, love, love. And then here you go getting the worst pain that you can imagine. And it makes you not trust them. It puts a non-trust in the infant that it shouldn't trust these adults because these adults gave you pain instead of where you should have been just given joy and comfort and loved. I've heard people say that we have love in us because we still raise children, but getting the child circumcised ain't love. And we do it out of tradition. We're told that they can get all these kind of things if they don't. But that's a lot of propaganda. That's what he said. Okay. That's what okay, I'm sorry I missed that. Yeah. But yeah, that's part of the story. It makes the child not trust. It breaks the bond it had of the love at first. And I have 5 sons, and I had it done all to them because we were told, just like my mother had it done to me, because it was done to her father and her brothers, because that's what they tell you. It's a forced traumatic experience. Boys who are circumcised are quicker to anger and suffer more neurological issues later on. Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's what it does. It tries to put those issues in you of not trusting anything about any adults or grown-ups because they gave you this pain, when it wasn't necessary. And that's a thing that has to stop. Will it stop? If you're young enough to have children, because you're going to be hit with this. Well, if you don't circumcise him, they can get all this, and this. When in reality, if you just take care of yourself and you teach that child to take care of himself, he won't have those issues. It's the same way as anything. You don't wash your ass, you can get anything. That's what the information shows, that it's look up the information of people that don't do it. It's very possible to live your whole life and never have those issues. But again, they don't want to tell those stories. They want to tell you the opposite stories. So let's go for a few more minutes. Wow. Can't believe it went this far. And it's like you said, forced trauma on something that just knew love at first. Love and excitement coming into the world. Do I want to say this? Part of reincarnation that is somewhat true is you do choose. You do have a choice, it seems. The soul does have a choice, and the soul agrees to come into a certain family. And that's part of reincarnation. I know people may not agree with that when people say you choose to come in. That's reincarnation. That's part of it, is that you see the family and you choose to go into it. You shoot that energy into that family. That appears like that could be. And then I know the question will go, well, why would a baby who gets tortured agree to go to that family? Again, the baby would have to agree. That soul would have to agree, knowing. I mean, it's the same way with the Jesus story. He knew. He knew what was coming. So it seems like those souls know what's coming. But yet that is part of the plan. But again, that comes from reincarnation. That's why I kind of hesitated to even bring that up. Because you hear that all the time. Well, you chose that family. And that's somewhat true. But again, that comes from reincarnation. The whole picture, not just part of the picture. That's the whole picture. Oh, that's how the Chris Rock movie Down to Earth was. Yeah, kind of somewhat. When my kids were born, military health care wouldn't pay for circumcision. Called it elective surgery. It is. It's an extra charge, definitely. I agree. It is an extra charge. And you have to sign paperwork. And on the paperwork, it tells you this is going to cost. Yeah. You're signing a bill. Not only are you giving permission, but you're giving permission to pay for that shit. Yeah. You are giving permission to pay for it. Absolutely, Crazy Sarge. I remember the paperwork. I've signed the paperwork 5 times, and it's an extra bill. When you look at the bill, it is an extra bill. I agree with you. That part is correct. Yeah, it is. It costs extra. They ain't doing that shit for free to make your baby holler. Yeah. And what they do in Africa to kill to keep the women submissive is they cut off their clit so they can never have the dominant orgasm, because it's to keep them submissive and not have the spiritual thing that women have when they have orgasms. Not enjoy that spiritual thing that a woman can release. I mean, you can have sex with a woman. It's almost like you're releasing a phoenix at times. If you can get to that point with her, if you can feel that point where she blasts off, It is almost like you are grabbing the phoenix and you are blasting off with her. I mean, that's what it is for. It's not just to have because you're horny. I mean, sex can be a very spiritual kind of connection. I mean, just hugging somebody. That is why this thing we face now was telling you not to even hug people. There's a reason for that. That's communism. The lack of human contact. You know, when you shake somebody's hand, all the energy that goes back and forth between you two, or you give somebody a high five, do you know all the energy that's moving between you two? It's more than just you shaking somebody's hand. I see my best friend, that's the first thing I do, brother. And I've told this story before. I've watched my best friend and I, we've listened to our daughters, and my daughter and his daughter was saying that they've never heard me call my best friend anything but brother. And they were saying they call each other brothers, but they're not really brothers. I've never called him anything but brother. But just human contact, even people you just stepped in front of and talked to, there's a lot going back and forth between you two. And they're trying to kill that. I mean, look at a group of brothers just on the corner, just talking shit and just being together. Do you know how much power that is? Just a group of brothers, and I mean anybody. I'm not just limited to that, but I'm just a group of men just bullshitting amongst each other. There's a lot of power there. There's a lot of going back and forth there. There's a company called Foreign that is working on regenerating the foreskins, so that's a plus. Hopefully it ain't made of pig skin. It probably would be. So if not circumcised, not a slave, then if you look at Starship Trooper, to become a citizen, you had to join the military, and your kids are citizens at birth. Good point. And that's Robert. My mother says it's not Helene. It's Helena or Robert Hingle. Something like Robert Hingle. I thought it was Robert Helene, but he's the one that wrote Starship Trooper. Damn, something else about, wow. I was just studying some shit about joining the army to become a citizen. That's kind of Roman too. That was kind of part of Roman too, because what Rome would do, Rome would go into what is the word I'm looking for? The military people that are paid for. I can't think of the name of it right now, but the military people, it's another word with an M, but soldier of fortune is the word that's coming into. Soldier of fortunes, the Romans would make them, if you became, like you was a soldier for a militia, if you was a militia dude and you fought Rome, and then after the thing, Rome liked you, Rome would offer these militias to be Roman citizens if they joined the army. And you would be a citizen of Rome. If you get into the Paul things on why they couldn't really fuck with Paul, Paul was like, I'm a Roman citizen. And so you get into those readings why he would go in towns and they saying they're going to kill him because he's a Christian. He was telling them, you have to take me in front of Romans for you to even fuck with me. You can't judge me because you motherfuckers ain't Roman. So you go talk to these Roman motherfuckers. You want to judge me. And that's what the Paul shit says. You can't fuck with me because I'm Roman. So Helene. That's not how you pronounce it, though. It ain't Helene is how you pronounce it. It's pronounced different because I've been saying it forever and it's wrong. My mother met this cat at in the 50s. My mother actually met him, had a signed book by that cat. Again, I love the book Time Enough for Love. Stranger in a Strange Land is another one, made a movie, but Time Enough for Love, I love that movie. It gives you, again, it talks about having, only mate with people that's got 4 living grandparents. They tell you how immortality was achieved through the family. And it's like, when you get with somebody, you got to make sure each person you get with has 4 living grandparents. And so people would get together that both had 4 living grandparents. That meant the children would live longer. And this is how the family achieved, by the time Lazarus Long comes around, how his family achieved immortality. But when you get into, and I've said this before, when you get into the cat that walks through walls, it's a jumble of the different characters. But the point of the cat that walked through walls goes into Schroeder's experiment of you put radiation in a box and you put the motherfucking cat in the box. And they're saying that one cat is alive and one cat is dead. But Robert Heinlein tells you that one cat could walk through the motherfucking wall. So it ain't the only answer that one's alive, one is dead. The cat could walk through the goddamn box. So that's another point you have to look at. Not everyone who lived in Rome was granted the title of citizen. It was a special class. Look up the military, though. A lot of those people that joined through the military would be Lao citizens if they fought for Rome. Or I'll amend it to say this. They might have had to fight so many battles, and then they were Roman citizens. But most of what I've read, if these militias joined, they was Roman citizens by joining. But good point. Going back to what was saying about women being first, Greek goddesses Athena reproduced without a man as well. Yeah, I mean it's in there. Of course, it's in their mythology as well. But they copy an older mythology. But yeah, again, they put it in there because, again, when they copied all these stories, they had to add some of that shit to their story. Well, guys, it is after 3, and I do have a little shit to do. And so, again, I'm sorry I didn't come on last night. I do stretch myself thin. I'm probably going to wake up at 8 or 9 o'clock, which is not that long from right now. I'm on Central Time, so it's 3 o'clock Central Time. Military was a main why people gain citizenship. It could be bought. Yeah, it could be bought. Again, some instances you had to do so many battles, but I know it was a point where just joining them, they were making them citizens. And you can, if you want to reference that, they're just, I'm trying to think, there is a reference. I'm trying to think of the word that be the key word under that. I think you can look up becoming, I think the search is under military becoming a citizen from the military. I think that was the search, and it'll bring up a lot. And then you can read some of the soldiers' kind of stories. So it might have been certain battles, but I know at one point just joining, you became a citizen. And that's how they grew their armies. As they conquered, they was like, shit, these motherfuckers fought the shit out of us. You might as well join us. I'm realizing the importance. Yes, military. You realizing the importance of choosing your mates. Well, thank you guys again. This is the Chocolate Mountain Show. I thank each and every one of you for joining me. I thank each and every one of you for helping this new channel come into being and motivating me to do this. Again, I didn't take missing yesterday as being lightly. Again, I overextend myself a lot. I don't sleep a lot. And I was so beat down from, again, I've been going, even them striking the other channel, I've been going damn near every day since probably 2 weeks before Christmas. So it's very few days. Even when they struck my channel, I created a new channel within days. So, well, thank you, Barbara, for the kind words. Charlie, thank you too for the kind words. Charlie Murphy, that's 19. Thank you for the kind words. Again, you've been part of the Chocolate Mountain Show. Thank everybody for their involvement. I appreciate it. And as you all know, I finished with Eshawn, which is one of the first rappers in Detroit. I'll finish with his poem, and it goes a little something like this. I'm not a New York rapper or a LA gangbanger. I'm just an old school Detroit crack slinger. I know I'm not going to heaven. That's why I always carry my 357. Thank you, everyone. Till we meet again.